Hing. Mewling Fox let out a cry as its aura directly increased from a low-level commander to a peak high-level commander. Once its state had stabilized, the fox walked up confidently to Subai. It had not lost its intellect just because of the demonization of its body. Good, good, very good. It seems you're very compatible with the demon crystal. Subai saw how his pet's aura had directly broken through to the peak high-level commander and said. The demon crystal was formed as a sacrifice by the supreme Black Territory demon, who had surpassed the sovereign grade. The energy contained in it was unimaginable, and only the initial integration allowed the fox to obtain such a great benefit. Once it fully refined and integrated the crystal, the fox would easily reach the sovereign grade. With that said, he checked the specific data of the current fox. Name: race, nine-tailed magic fox monster, sex, female, level, high-level commander, attribute, dark, characteristic, passive, dark domain. Everywhere the fox walks is the dark domain. Once it has evolved to an ultimate degree, all the shadows and darkness in the world are its domain. Also, the domain has the function of enhancing the fox's attributes while deceiving the enemy's perception and suppressing its spiritual power. Umbra, by activating this feature, the nine-tailed magic fox can be transformed into an element and appear in the Umbra area without warning. The power of the feature increases with the fox's mastery of the laws of the dark attribute. Black armor. This trait reflects all spiritual attacks that do not contain laws. Skills: devilish warp, dark minions, restrained. It is restrained against all spiritual attacks that do not contain laws. Weakness: light attribute law, pure physical attack, evolutionary direction, none. The nine-tailed magic fox is the final form, and its body will be transformed into the most compatible dark domain demon spiritual body following the continuous transformation of the demon crystal. Introduction: this is the second attribute obtained through the fusion of magic crystals. It has great potential. In theory, the fox can reach the peak of the immortal grade and has the opportunity to break through to the eternal grade. Abai, I feel so strong now, and my body is full of power. Nine-tailed magic fox rubbed its head against Subai lightly and spoke telepathically. Haha, of course. You should thank Purple Jade. He caressed its head. Now, nine-tailed magic fox was both domineering and terrifying, which was in line with his aesthetics. In particular, he fancied its pair of dark purple eyes, which was different from the elf's. Thank you, Sister Jade. The fox turned its head and lowered its head to thank the elf from the bottom of its heart. Only after fusion did it understand how big a resource this was. Originally, it still had a sense of inferiority because, among Subai's pets, it had the least potential. Furthermore, its culmination was the Emperor grade. Now, after this fusion with the demon crystal, the fox had been given infinite potential. You're welcome. I dislike the breath of the crystal. The biggest credit goes to Arbai. You just need to protect him. The elf swayed its hand dismissively, indicating its disregard. It really did not like the aura of the demon crystal, and it was better if the fox became stronger and was more equipped to protect Subai. Only, in the distance, the starry omnivore kraken opened a pair of eyes, which was larger than a basketball court, and flicked its tail in confusion. It seemed that it had the credit as well. However, no one noticed its small movements. It was also when they were talking that the planet behind them, which had collapsed under the action of its gravity, underwent an abnormal change. Under high-speed rotation, this huge planet with a diameter of more than 50,000 kilometers turned into a dense star with a diameter of more than 1 kilometer. However, it was unknown why this planet had no terrifying gravity. At least, Subai, who was not too far away, could not feel the slightest gravitational fluctuation. An altar with a statue was found on this demon star, and no danger is currently perceived. After a short while, 1314 gave a report and projected an image of the altar. Subai was shocked to see the statue on the altar. It was actually the altar of existence. He hurriedly spoke loudly. Let's go to the altar. It turns out that this altar is the real treasure on this planet. He did not expect to encounter the altar of existence here. For a moment, he could not help wondering how many secrets this abyss star territory still hid. At this time, 1314 projected an image. By, there's an emergency in the rear. That group of people was chased back by a large group of black mantis insects. They and the insects are already very close here, so it might be too late. Roar. If that's the case, then let's get rid of them. No one can take our treasure. Who agrees and who opposes? Little Tyrant raised its claw and asked. I agree. The elf raised its paw. I agree, too. The blood dragon also raised its claw. We all agree. Planet Eye and starry omnivore kraken also concurred. All right, then. Let's get rid of those bugs and then drive those people away. Subai nodded and agreed to his pet's proposal. As they talked, the group of people had escaped from the group of black mantis insects. It was not due to their speed, rather, their position was not far away from here. Senior, help. Bai Song, the girl with glasses, was the first to see the giant Planet Eye, as well as the floating starry omnivore kraken with a body length of more than 10 kilometers. Senior, help. The others also shouted. Although they had not seen Planet Eye, they recognized the kraken, especially the terrifying body of this starry omnivore kraken. Its sinister and mysterious aura helped increase their confidence, and they knew that this was definitely a powerful senior. This was not mentioning the few pets that this senior had, which included a black nine-tailed magic fox and the blood dragon that both exuded terrifying aura. This was not a pet lineup that juniors could have. By song, this senior doesn't seem to have a high pet aura. Can he really save us? Someone in the fleeing crowd still showed doubts. Do you think this is a pet lineup that our peers can have? She rolled her eyes, surprised that anyone would still have doubts about it. This looks like a senior with hidden strength. Yes, how can ordinary people have the ability to jump in space and come here all at once? The captain was also sure that Subai was a super senior. When the two said this, everyone else felt that it was reasonable, and they imagined Subai as a powerful senior. Mewling and Peepee, get rid of those bugs. Jade and Dragon, do crowd control, Subai waved his hand and instructed. As his voice fell, the nine-tailed magic fox and starry omnivore kraken rushed over. On the other side, the nine-tailed magic fox erupted with boundless black magic energy. A vast black domain then formed under its feet. All the black-armored mantises that entered the black domain were instantly controlled by it. With a hing, a huge magic fox phantom appeared in the black domain. As it gently lifted its paw and pressed, the huge fox phantom behind it also pressed its paw down. With the sound of flesh tearing and blood spurting, these black-armored mantis insects turned into a pile of meaty paste. Before dying, their powerful attacks hit the nine-tailed magic fox, but they were rendered ineffective by the immunity of the black armor. After killing a bunch, it went to another place. It raised its claws and activated Devilish Warp. The black cold light shot thousands of miles away, and most of the black-armored mantises were killed directly. A closer look revealed that these space bugs, after being killed by the nine-tailed magic fox, all turned into strands of black smoke, which merged into the fox. This was not uncommon. These black-armored mantises actually originated from the Black Territory demon and were originally ordinary insects. The reason why they became so powerful was that they had absorbed the power of the Black Territory demon. Therefore, in front of the fox that had inherited the fusion of the magic crystal, they had no resistance at all. Soon, hundreds of thousands of black-armored mantises in starry space were killed by the nine-tailed magic fox and starry omnivore kraken that swallowed them all. Bai Song and the other students of Deep Ocean University were stunned and at a loss for words. It's over. Someone felt surreal after seeing these black-armored mantises, which massacred most of their pets, get killed easily. Were they really the vicious black mantis insects? Be careful. There's a high-level commander rushing over, let's work together to kill it. The captain suddenly reminded his team. I'll do it. Black Crystal Bear, smash it to death. Without waiting for the captain to speak, one of them directed his pet to rush over. The Black Crystal Bear was a powerful peak high-level commander. Upon receiving the order, it immediately burst forth with spiritual power and charged forward. The bear slammed the black-armored mantis with its huge bear paw. Anxious to escape, the insect did not dare to retreat and could only bite the bullet and charge forward. There was a glimmer of light, followed by the sound of the separation of flesh and blood, and the seemingly indestructible black crystal bear was directly cut into two halves. Blood scattered into the void and quickly condensed into ice. Meanwhile, the black-armored mantis did not have the slightest wound on its body. It turned its head and glanced at the dead black crystal bear. A little dazed, it shook off the blood on its blade and quickly fled. Howl! At this time, a huge emerald vine appeared, piercing the body of the black mantis at an incredible speed. It quickly absorbed its vitality, which flowed directly from the monster's dark carapace. My black crystal bear. Accompanied by this scream of grief and indignation, everyone else returned to their senses and looked at one another with lingering fear. Fortunately, they were a step slower, or else their pets might be dead now. It was not that the black-armored mantis had become weak, rather, the pet of the senior was too strong, giving them such an illusion. The battle was completely over before they even regained their senses. Subai stood on top of his dragon and approached them. Thank you for your life-saving grace, senior. We're students of Deep Ocean University. May I ask for this senior's name? Bai Song and the captain quickly moved forward to salute and thank him. Their hearts throbbed violently as they watched the huge scarlet dragon, which was so close at hand. Although the ancestor blood dragon did not deliberately exude coercion, the breath, which existed in the depths of its bloodline, still made their hearts constricted and their skin sport goosebumps. It doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that you should leave. I still have business here and don't want to be disturbed. Subai waved his hand and said indifferently. The group of humans glanced at the changed planet behind them. They tacitly remained silent and did not inquire more. Nodding, Bai Song said, "Don't worry, senior. We'll leave immediately. Please wait for us to sort out our materials. No, just leave fast." He interrupted the girl. "Okay." The group did not dare to disagree and quickly nodded. "Let's leave here. It's too dangerous." When Bai Song said so, the others stopped lingering and quickly moved to leave. Before departing, the girl also glanced at Subai secretly. "It seems that you recognized it, too." The captain glanced at her, no longer suppressing the shock on his face. "I was certain when I was that blood dragon." Bai Song smiled bitterly and nodded. "I thought we were the best among our peers, but we're nothing in comparison with that senior." Since Subai had not changed his appearance, the two naturally recognized him when they approached. However, the shock he had given them was stuck in their hearts and difficult to dissipate for a long time. Bai, why don't you want any benefits? We shouldn't do it for nothing." Little Tyrant glanced up at him in confusion. "Are you stupid? They're not weak." The reason why they were in a sorry state was that they encountered the black mantis insects and were restrained by those monsters' spiritual attacks. Although we could defeat them, what if they stayed too long and found out about the treasure? The elf patted the dino and raised its head. "Oh, I forgot about that. I was thinking of getting more things for my meal." Little Tyrant scratched its head sheepishly. "Planet I, stay here with Peepee to keep guard. Pay attention to the surroundings. I'll take your siblings to explore the altar." Subai arranged an action plan and immediately rode his pet dragon to the altar on the planet. Not long after, Subai fell on the altar. At first, he thought that there would be a dangerous test or something, but there was no change along the way. When he came to the altar, he discovered that it was huge, covering an area of thousands of square meters. The whole thing seemed to have been carved from a piece of blue-black jade with various mysterious runes painted on it. All in all, the altar looked sacred and majestic. After observing the surroundings for a while, he came to the center of the altar. Here stood a large blue statue with an inexplicable aura that seemed to contain all the truths between heaven and earth. The statue was of a half-human and half-fish with blue-white wings. Needless to say, the beauty of this mermaid was naturally not enough to describe in words. The most terrifying thing was the intangible aura around it. Its entire body exuded the aura of the most flawless existence between heaven and earth. The mermaid held a jade book. That mysterious aura was coming from this book. "This is..." The elf raised its head, unable to recall what this was for a while. "That's right. This is the mermaid, the recorder of all things. It's one of the 4 great elemental spirits of earth, water, wind, and fire. The book in its hand is the book of all things and contains all the truth and knowledge in this world. Subai looked at the huge statue and said slowly. The nine-tailed magic fox form and its original thousand-face fox form were black and white, like two extremes, but in fact they could be switched freely. Yes, how did this guy die here? Could it be that he was killed by the mermaid, the recorder of all things? The other pets were also very puzzled. Their attention had been focused on the status, so only now did they notice the corpse with only its skeletons. This skeleton was like white jade, and it contained strong energy. It stood facing the recorder of all things with its fangs bared and its claws brandished. One hand grabbed the book of all things in the hands of the mermaid. Although there was only a skeleton left, its madness could still be felt. I'm sensing the law of fire from its body. It seemed to have tried taking the book of all things before it died, but isn't the book carved in stone? What's the use of obtaining it? Little Tyrant pointed to the skeleton and asked. It stretched its little claw and scratched its head, feeling quite puzzled. Unsurprisingly, this should be the woman who deceived the Black Territory Demon. She should be the same as the Black Territory Demon and is a human being who merged with the spirits in some way. This skeleton fusion should be the fire spirit and the blazing horse. Subai looked at the skeleton and explained. The reason why he was so sure was that he had seen the information of the skeleton and also because the black mist, which had wrapped around his soul, now dissipated in the sea of his spirit. The Black Territory Demon thought she had betrayed him and escaped. Now, it seemed that her goal was this altar. Subai did not have many thoughts about this. In this universe, for their own benefits, many husbands and wives could kill each other. Hold this skeleton, and I'll make it into a potion in a while. It happens to have a great effect on your evolution. He instructed the dino. Roar. Don't worry, leave this to me. Little Tyrant grabbed the spine of the skeleton and lifted it up. It patted its chest and promised. Perhaps it had been too violent, but as soon as the skeleton was picked up, a special wave erupted from it, continuously absorbing the fire power in the dino. Roar! You're still restless even after your death. Little Tyrant showed a trace of doubt, thought for a while, and then twisted the head of the skeleton using its claws. The spine broke into several sections, which the dino kept in its storage space. Subai. Seeing a human-like skeleton being ill-treated in this way, he was at a loss for words for a while. He shook head and turned his attention to the statue of the recorder of all things. He was unable to spy on the secrets of this statue with his pet interface, so he did not know the secrets within. However, he was not totally helpless. Even though he relied heavily on the pet interface, he has always focused on broadening his knowledge and had attained a wide expertise when it came to pets. He remembered a legend recorded in the books his master, Gaon, had given him before. After thinking about it carefully, he decided to give it a try. He summoned his diamond contract book first before bowing 3 times to the statue. He then bit his finger to force a drop of blood to fall on the book of all things, which was in the hands of the mermaid statue. The mermaid statue seemed to have sensed the drop of blood after about 10 breaths as its whole body vibrated and a blue streamer flowed through it. In the radiance, the whole statue flew up from the altar and began to change to a smaller size. In the end, this mermaid statue was reduced into a height of 10 centimeters. It then turned into a blue streamer which acted as a cover of Subai's contract book. He watched this scene in surprise, then raised his hand and put away the contract book. At this time, the mermaid statue was completely embedded in it. A special energy spread from the statue and integrated into his contract book. In an instant, the contract book reached the 3-star diamond. It had directly risen 2 stars to reach the full-star diamond. The original 16-page contract book had suddenly increased to become a 25-page contract book, which meant that the upper limit of the pets he could form a contract at this time had risen to 25. According to the law, it should be 22 pages, but it seemed that, because of the statue, there were 3 additional pages. Although the number of pets he had formed contracts did not exceed 10, no one would complain about having too many pages. At this time, an inexplicable feeling consumed his mind. This feeling made him understand that the statue had a token of some kind, but he did not know what token it was exactly. He only knew that it would do good to his contract book. Wow! Your contract book has become so much cooler. The elf looked at his contract book, its watery purple eyes widening. Indeed, the appearance of his contract book had reached a new level, especially with the mermaid statue inlaid in the center of the cover. It directly increased the aesthetics of the book. Haha. Indeed, it's much cooler. He nodded in satisfaction following his pet's remark. Still, how come you know how to do this? Mewling Fox asked. I saw it in a book in the past and decided to give it a try, Subai said while putting away his contract book. It said that the source of the human contract book is actually the recorder of all things. It was supposedly created specifically for mankind by the Book of All Things. In the past, he thought that this was just a legend, but now it seemed like it was true. You're so knowledgeable, Mewling Fox praised. Alright, let's leave first. This planet has nothing left to offer, Subai shook his head and said. He had already explored this planet on the way here, and there was nothing else of value besides the altar. After leaving the planet, he went straight to Planet Eye's back. He was going to rest for a while, and then proceed to explore, as there were still too many places worth exploring in this abyss star territory. Onam. Can I eat this? The starry omnivore kraken cruised to Planet Eye, fixating its pair of big black eyes at the dense star, which was directly more than 2,000 meters away. Yes, you can, but be careful not to choke. After thinking for a while, Subai nodded and agreed. On this planet still stood the base of the altar of the recorder of all things. The kraken might evolve if it swallowed the planet. Moreover, the starry omnivore kraken was a water-based kraken, so even if there was no change, it was good to have some mermaid breath. Onam. Having obtained Subai's permission, the kraken let out a happy cry. It then swallowed the planet at one gulp before flicking its huge tail. Onam. The kraken was also a little puzzled. I haven't finished digesting it yet, it's too hard. Just digest it slowly, we'll rest on this spot. He glanced at it and smiled. Onam. PP Kraken expressed its understanding, then activated its darkness skill, and concealed itself. Subai sat down and took out some food as well as potions from his space backpack. Now that the potions were provided for by Master Gaon, he used them much more generously. Anyway, his master was a rich, old man. He had to let his pets make full use of the latter. Planet Eye quickly mobilized its body and used its algorithm to design a very ideal house. It also simulated various furniture, such as tables, chairs, and benches, making the whole house look more advanced than an elaborately packaged villa. Not bad. Can you make experimental equipment, too? Asked Subai while eating bread. No, I don't have the specific data for those devices, so I can't make them. I can only make something after researching it, but doing so will take a lot of time. The cold mechanical female voice of Planet Eye rang in his mind. Indeed, although your computing power is very advanced, you can't make something out of nothing. When I go back to Blue Planet, I'll find a way to get all the data for you, he nodded and said. After eating, Subai let Chen Ruoshua know that he was safe via a special mobile phone. Once he expressed how much he missed his girlfriend and asked about the Blue Planet situation, he ended the call. Sigh. The situation on Blue Planet is really getting chaotic. He stood up and sighed involuntarily. Subai had been here for almost 2 months, but the present situation of Blue Planet was even worse compared to when he left. More and more cracks were appearing, and the entire Blue Planet was now riddled with holes. Most of the population had been moved to towns for protection. The Pet Alliance and other countries were already awfully busy. While dealing with all kinds of powerful monsters, they also had to appease ordinary people and pet tamers. Everything could still be stabilized at the moment, but skepticals who wanted to flee and had lots of questions had appeared in the crowd. Some people thought that since Blue Planet was falling apart, they should find another planet to terraform and migrate to. It was fine as long as humans could escape. What was the point of fighting it out with all those monsters? However, the countries and the Pet Alliance did not say a word and gave no explanation. How can this be? Why are there so many monsters on Blue Planet? The elf asked uncomprehendingly. I'm not sure, either. Subai shook his head. He had discovered this abnormal phenomenon very early on. One of his reasons for coming down here was to investigate this matter. Does the blue planet have some kind of treasure? Little Tyrant's eyes lit up. I'll try to dig through the blue planet when we return. Subai, all right. Tyrant, give me the bones of the blazing horse, I'll prepare a potion for you. He shook his head and sighed. It's time for you to evolve now. The dino was not far from evolution, and if its aura had not been suppressed by the cold temperature of Heavenly Abyss previously, it would have evolved long ago. Roar. Thank you. Upon hearing this, it suddenly danced in the heat of the moment. It took out the bones and jumped around ardently. Wait for me, it'll probably take a while despite having this small device for preparing potions. After all, this bone is of a high level, he said. Master, then shall we stay where we are or explore around? The mechanical sound of Planet Eye circulated in his mind. Wait for me to come out and take a look. Subai went out and surveyed the surroundings. The entire starry space was dark and foggy, and he could not see anything, as if it were a dead zone. Go down. Explore on your way and try to hide as much as you can. Report to me if you find anything. Suddenly remembering something, he decided to continue exploring below. Okay, I understand. Planet Eye responded and projected a large screen in the air. 1,000 light spots were lit on the big screen, showing the exact location of its 1,000 clones. Subai told Purple Jade to keep a lookout and then concentrated on preparing the potion. On the other side of Abyss Star territory, a large black dragon quickly shuttled through the gloomy starry space. A group of people and a few pets stood on the back of the giant dragon. The two in front were Xiao Yulong and Ziyi. One was the young patriarch of the Imperial Dragon Clan and the other was the daughter of the curator of Yulong Gymnasium. How much farther? Xiao Yulong looked at his girlfriend and asked. It's estimated to take at least 10.5 days more, that guy ran too far. Ziyi communicated with the crow on his shoulder and replied, he's in the same direction as our other mission, though. I wonder if his destination is also that place. You mean that he's also rushing to Kunlun ruins? He showed a hint of surprise. Very likely. That won't do. You have to speed up. The situation in Kunlun ruins is too complicated. He must be intercepted before he arrives there. Xiao Yulong's expression changed, and he lowered his head to communicate with the dragon he was riding. The dragon's speed once again increased by a notch. Roar! Bai, is the potion ready? When he came out, Little Tyrant's eyes darted all over in search of the potion. Not yet. You'll have to wait a while more. I'm here to see Pee-Pee. Looking up, Subai saw that the body length of Starry Omnivore Kraken had reached a terrifying size of 30 kilometers, and its aura had directly reached the peak mid-level commander. Floating in the void, it was even bigger than some small planets. In addition, it had awakened a water attribute skill, the water cage. All these changes were derived from digesting that planet. To be precise, it had come from the remaining part of the altar of the mermaid, the recorder of all things. This was enough to explain the power of the 4 elemental pets, as just some leftover aura could bring such great benefits to other pets. The water cage skill was very powerful. It had double the power in controlling injury. After being cast, it would form a water prison, where a vortex composed of infinite water jets with terrifying power raged inside. The most terrifying thing was that the water prison was difficult to break. Any attack in an attempt to break the water prison would be transferred inside and be reflected to the launcher. Feeling Subai commenting on itself, the starry omnivore kraken let out a cry and then flicked its tail. Subai played with it for a while before looking at the changes in Planet Eye and their gains along the way. Planet Eye encountered many meteorites on their way forward and had obtained 5 phantom veins, as well as many types of metal. He made those into potions. Meanwhile, the phantom veins were still there. Various types of metal had fused to Planet Eye, so now its clone had increased by 2,000. Take out a fire spirit crystal vein. Tyrant, get ready, I'll get the potion. The reason why it had taken 10 days for him to make the potion this time was that he only produced 1 bottle of concentrated super essence. Roar. Bai, I'm always ready. Little Tyrant roared excitedly. He handed the potion to the dino and cautioned it. Blazing Horse was a monster beyond the sovereign level before its death. Even if most of the spiritual power in its bones had dissipated over the years, it still had a boundless formidable power for the dino. Raw tilde I understand tilde Little Tyrant took the potion, shook it using its claw, and then directly swallowed the entire bottle. It even swallowed the test tube. Subai. It was already too late to complain, for the spirit of the potion leaked, and its temperature soon reached 400 or 500 degrees. It continued increasing, and he could only take the elf and the other pets away first. Roar. When they were 1 kilometer away from it, the dino roared. Although sounds could not be transmitted in the starry space, the spiritual fluctuations were still very obvious. Following this roar, Little Tyrant first transformed into a complete body and turned into a huge monster more than 100 meters high. This was a complete purgatory fire thief. That ferocious and violent look revealed its own strength. It seemed capable of burning mountains and boiling seas with every gesture. It looked capable of destroying worlds, too. With the volatilization of the potion power and the detonation of the fire crystal vein's spiritual power, a fiery red light cluster gradually enveloped its body. For a time, only this burning fire was left in the vast space, exuding violent light and heat like a star. Although he could not see the dino, he could also feel its aura being strengthened slightly. Bye, there's a situation in front. The movement of Little Tyrant's breakthrough has attracted some monsters in the nearby void. They are approaching our direction. Planet I suddenly issued a report. Subai frowned. There was no light in this abyss star territory, so the light and heat being emitted by the dino's breakthrough inevitably attracted many monsters. Don't worry, tell me if there's a particularly strong breath. He instructed Planet I. Little Tyrant had just sent a telepathic message that it did not need his help to deal with those things. As the fireball on its side grew bigger and bigger, some of the attracted monsters arrived. These new arrivals then launched attacks to the fireball one after another while they continuously devoured the spilled spiritual power. Although there was no reaction from the dino, the fireball surrounding it was still burning, and its breath was still rising steadily. As time went by, more and more monsters were attracted to the aura, and they soon formed a circle around the sphere of fire and attempted to devour it. Like a Dyson ball surrounding a star, they formed a tight formation around the dino. They would swallow the pure fire spirit whenever it spilled. Bye, is this really all right? Purple Jade asked, a little worried. After all, Little Tyrant was its first younger brother. Don't worry, the show is about to start. He laughed. As soon as his voice fell, a flame light wave spread around the dino. Wherever it went, be the one in its path a monster or a meteorite, it would shatter and destroy them. Then a pair of huge wings burning with flames appeared in the dark backdrop. 2 red lights shone to reveal Little Tyrant's eyes. At this moment, the dino's size and height had reached the horrifying level of 1,000 meters. Its body was covered by dark armor, with lava-like lines on it. Little Tyrant had a black exoskeleton, which looked like a spear at the joints, and the mixture of flame and death around its body seemed to be the aura of a purgatory king. It had now officially evolved from a purgatory fire thief to a super-rare monster, a purgatory overlord, the lava killer. Roar. It uttered another silent roar, and the surrounding spiritual power of the fire attribute flew backward and merged with the dino. The flame seemed to have seen its master. The dino broke through a bottleneck again, and its size skyrocketed to a height of 2,000 meters. It directly broke through to the monarch grade. It was not surprising that it was promoted to the monarch grade. After all, the spirit crystal vein was prepared for its breakthrough. Once its aura had stabilized, the dino flew directly towards Subai with large strides. However, the pitiful asteroid under its feet, which was already overwhelmed by its weight, directly broke apart with nothing left intact. Raw tilde Bye, I've successfully evolved and broken through to the monarch grade tilde Little Tyrant flew to his side and shrank to 2 meters tall, its flame wings disappearing at the same time. It did not seem any different, and only its breath felt stronger. Good job. Subai nodded in satisfaction. It was as he expected. This is a diluting potion made by the bones of the blazing horse. It can stabilize your realm. He took out a bottle of light red potion and handed it to the dino. Thank you. Little Tyrant found a place to sit down, then it raised its head and drank the potion. Subai also used his pet interface to check the dino's detailed information. Name, race, lava killer monster, gender, male, level, low-level monarch, attribute, fire, earth, undead, features, passive, lava purgatory, immortality, the body of the undead, skills, fireball, flying stone, bite, death crash, multiple tail strikes, ripped claws, defeated fireball, fire jet, earth hammer, death cocoon, fire theft, killer, lava wings. The flying ability of life monsters has a low cost and can exist for a long time. Restriction: wood, metal, water, blood, curse. Weakness: water, evolutionary direction, Little Tyrant, Tyrant, Purgatory Fire Thief, Lava Killer, Purgatory Tyrant, Starry Lava Eclipse. Introduction: Lava Killer is a super rare monster. It is the most difficult evolution result for a Purgatory Tyrant and is 1 in 10,000. Its successful evolution is the product of the right timing and place. It is already the absolute Purgatory Overlord. Faced with the general 5-stage evolutionary monsters, such as the Sand Tyrant, Purgatory Fire King, etc., it can easily defeat them all. In particular, its fire theft and killer skills were the nemesis of all fire-type monsters. Looking at the rich data panel of the dino, Subai could not help but sigh. Now, it could not be regarded as completely invincible at the monarch grade and was capable of being undefeated. In retrospect, it did not seem like a long time since it hatched, and it seemed like it was only yesterday that it was still gnawing at everything. "Ah, I can finally feel some safety," Subai exclaimed. Before he could finish speaking, Planet Eye suddenly spoke. "Master, there's a group approaching at a very fast speed. They're expected to arrive at our location in 10 minutes. It should have been attracted by Brother Tyrant's breakthrough." Subai frowned. "Yes, get rid of them. Don't be a coward." The dino roared in agreement. Subai stood on Planet Eye and looked far ahead. Not long after, a group of people appeared. Their mounts were all monarchs, but what surprised Subai was that they were all men who seemed to be around 30 to 40 years old. It stood to reason that the people entering the Abyss Star territory should be young. Also, he had not heard of the Pet Alliance sending other people. However, this was not completely uncommon. Heavenly Abyss was too big, so it was reasonable for someone to come in through an unknown space crack. The group of people also stopped upon seeing him and stood there facing him from 2 to 3 kilometers away. For Pet Tamers, this distance was enough to see all the actions of the opposite side, just like a normal face-to-face encounter. "Was it you who had a breakthrough earlier?" The leader of the group was a big man with long hair and a full beard. He used his transmission skill and spiritual power as a medium to communicate with Subai. "What's the matter? Who are you? Don't you know that this kind of behavior is impolite?" Subai narrowed his eyes and asked. "I'm impolite." Hearing his words, the corners of the big-faced man's mouth curled into a smile which eventually turned into a sinister smirk. Attack! Almost simultaneously, a dozen contract books, which exuded chaos, flew out. Between the pages of each book, nearly 100 pets flew out. A total of more than 1,000 pets formed an encirclement in an instant. Among them, the one with the level was a commander. None seemed weak. The chaos attack genre? A rare look of shock flashed across Subai's eyes. He had heard of this genre a long time ago and had encountered many of them, but few had been this strong. The horror of this genre lay in the continuous killing and devouring of contract books, thus having a large number of contract pages. They would use these pages to form contracts with powerful monsters in the natural world and release all of them in a group attack during fights. Although these captured monsters were much weaker than those carefully cultivated pets, they could still suppress the opponents with their numbers, and the Pet Tamers would not feel distressed over their deaths this way, too. They could just swallow more contract books and make more pages. Kill them. The full-bearded man did not dilly-dally and directly attacked. More than 1,000 pets all rushed out, releasing powerful skills one by one. "Go!" Subai calmly looked ahead, feeling confident about his pets. "Come and suffer." Purple Jade directly rushed out to meet the enemy monster in the form of limitless beauty. It expanded Thorn's domain, which turned the scattered asteroid debris in the surrounding green. The vine's linkage also formed a large green area. All monsters in the area were entangled and strangled, their vitality sucked dry. Roar. Enjoy the explosion. The tyrant raised its hand and launched hundreds of blighted fireballs to form a small sun-like explosion. It then flapped its lava wings and flew straight to the bearded brawny man after directly burning all the monsters defending him into flying ashes. Mewling Fox, meanwhile, unleashed a black mist. When it landed, it turned into a nine-tailed magic fox, which showed disdain to the blue dome of heaven. The huge shadow behind it obscured everything, and its dark domain turned the area into a blood mist. In less than a moment, all 1,000 of these monsters were killed mercilessly. Amazing. It's shockingly strong. They're all ultra-rare pets that I've never met before. It seems that we met a big fish. Instead of being afraid, the bearded brawny man repeatedly applauded. Although Subai's performance had shocked him, it had also made him understand how absolutely extraordinary the latter was. It would definitely be beneficial to swallow this young man's contract book. With a wave of his hand, 10 more contracts flipped open. Out of each of the contract books flew out 70 to 80 monarchs, totaling 700 or 800 pets. Combining the still-alive commanders and the large number of just-released commanders, there were more than 2,000 pets on the battlefield. Although Purple Jade and the other pets could fight monsters of higher levels, they were also very strained at the moment. They could no longer resist massive attacks of monarchs, not to mention withstand the attribute restraints. Boy, how's it going? Do you feel desperate? The bearded, brawny man laughed. Hee hee. You don't know how many geniuses like you we've encountered, but you're nothing in front of our large number of pets. Someone chuckled. Ha ha ha. What a joke. Seeing how exhausted the young man's pets were, these people could not help but laugh. They stared at Subai's face, wanting to see despair and fear from above. Desperate. Because of this. Subai looked behind them with a scornful smile. Huh. These people suddenly felt a chill behind their backs. They slowly turned their heads, looked back, and froze in an instant. A pair of black hole eyes suddenly appeared behind them, each of which was the size of a big mountain. It was a terrifying and boundless existence. This is a giant kraken. For a while, their hands and feet turned numb, and their whole body turned cold. They were frozen in place and unable to move. The terrifying aura, which sprayed on their faces, seemed to stop their heartbeats. This was impossible. How did it appear behind them? The group of people roared frantically. How did such a big monster hide itself? They wanted to escape, but their bodies would not listen. Run. The bearded, brawny man was the first to recover. He was about to activate his summoner skills to escape when he found out that the world had suddenly become pitch dark without anything visible at all on him. A black shadow leaped and swallowed these people along with most of the monarch monsters. The remaining monsters were quickly resolved by the elf. Soon, everything calmed down as if nothing had happened. Okay, let one of the people out, as well as their space backpacks. Subai glanced at his kraken and instructed. He had specifically ordered it to keep the men alive. On 'em. Okay. Sigh. We're not embezzling them. The starry omnivore kraken spit out the bearded brawny man's group and 10 space backpacks. Subai glanced at it. On 'em. It rolled its eyes and spit out another 5 space backpacks. Bye, that's all. Okay. Everything else is yours. Subai waved his hand, too lazy to haggle with it. Who are you? From which organization? Subai turned his head to the bearded brawny man, whose eyes were protruding, blue veins violently bulging, and face extremely stiff. Let me. With that said, the fox unleashed its sweet dreams skill. The guy became more demented once enveloped by this spiritual power, and his eyes also turned more listless. It's done. Subai nodded and asked again, who are you? What are you doing? Which organization do you belong to? What are your intentions here? My name is Fu Wenfei. I'm a professional robber. I belong to the Tianshun robber organization under the 12th Slayer, Dragon King Amethyst. I specialize in killing people and stealing goods. This time, I entered Heavenly Abyss to find a legendary pet in the Kunlun ruins. Unlike before, although the bearded brawny man was still in a daze, his speech was very smooth. A legendary pet? What pet? Subai showed a hint of curiosity. He knew of Kunlun ruins. It was a huge rolling mountain range that could be found by flying straight down from this starry space. The entire mountain range was covered by a special stream of light, which could be seen from a distance. He let Planet Eye head down and also remembered the legend. Kunlun ruins was said to be full of spiritual energy and treasures, making it a very ideal place for exploration. However, it was difficult to pass through the stream of light and get in. I have pictures in my phone, the bearded brawny man said blankly. Sending out another wave of spiritual power, the fox controlled the man to turn on his phone and click on a picture. The picture showed a big golden-orange cat with sapphire eyes. It was chubby and looked very lazy, but it had a supreme look in its eyes. Subai's pupils suddenly shrank. There's actually such a pet in this world. He could not help but marvel at it. What? Isn't it just a fat, orange cat? Purple Jade looked at him curiously and asked. Subai had never been so shocked before. After calming down, he slowly shook his head and said, "If you know its abilities, you'll definitely be shocked. In a way, this is one of the most powerful pets in the world." "Huh? The most powerful?" Little Tyrant looked over. "I can't explain it clearly now, you'll know when you meet it later." Subai shook his head and stopped explaining. "What shall we do with this guy? Kill him?" 1314, "You can tidy up the space backpacks," he said indifferently. As soon as Subai's voice fell, a flame enveloped the man, which turned him into ashes in a matter of seconds. Those who murdered would be murdered by others. "Come on. Let's go to Kunlun ruins." Subai looked at the gloomy starry space and spoke lightly. "Yes, Master." Planet Eye sped up. The starry omnivore kraken remained in its darkness state, flicking its tail to follow the former from behind. Kunlun ruins, Subai looked at the dark starry surroundings and whispered. Just a group of pirates was already so strong, he was afraid that the people in the Kunlun ruins would be much stronger. He wondered if it was really appropriate to go to Kunlun ruins by himself. However, he knew of Dragon King Amethyst. That dragon slayer was a master at least at the Heavenly King level and had terrifying undead monsters. Although the information obtained from the bearded brawny man did not say whether Dragon King Amethyst was heading to Kunlun ruins, he could be sure that 12th dragon slayer would definitely go. This was because that pet was too precious, so precious that anyone who knew it would never let it go, including himself. However, he did not want his pets to fall into this unprovoked competition. He had cultivated his pets step by step with painstaking efforts, after all. Although he possessed the Blood Moon divine skill, it was still too weak compared to powerful existences like Dragon King Amethyst. "Forget it. Let's take a step and see how it goes." He sighed and shook his head. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month passed. His 18th birthday passed quietly. During this period, only his girlfriend, Chen Ruoxue, called and said that she had prepared a surprise for him, hoping that he would go back soon. His other friends, as well as his parents, were unable to communicate with him because he was in space. By Kunlun ruins can be seen with the naked eye from here. Planet Eye's voice sounded in his mind. "Okay, I understand." Nodding, Subai put aside other things at hand. For more than half a month, he had been using the things he obtained from Abyss Star territory to make potions for his pets. Currently, Mewling Fox and Starry Omnivore Kraken were stuck at the peak high-level commander grade and were only one step away from breaking through and advancing. He used the obtained materials to formulate potions for his pets in hopes of helping them break through. Even Planet Eye had become a high-level commander and was not far from reaching the peak of that grade. Let me out, I have a new gain." As he advanced forward, the fox's voice rang in his mind. "What gain?" He released it from his contract book and asked curiously. "Can't you see it? I've obtained a new skill by refining the demon crystal. It's called Black Domain." The fox rubbed against him. Is it a consummate skill?" Subai glanced at his pet and said with surprise. This Black Domain skill was very special. After it was activated, an area could be turned into a black domain, where the fox could define the upper limit of the speed. Once this upper limit was set, even light had to travel at the speed set by the fox. This was a consummate skill and, in a certain way, was an ability with rules and regulations. However, this black domain skill was not unbreakable. One force could break 10,000 laws, and as long as it was strong enough, this black domain could be broken. That's right. The fox looked at Su Bai with a pair of foxy, charming pale blue pupils, very much looking forward to using the skill. Awesome. I didn't expect you to be so compatible with this demon crystal, and you even learned a consummate skill from it in less than a month, Su Bai said in surprise. I just finished preparing 2 bottles of potion for you as a reward. Thank you. The fox happily took the potion bottles and put them into the space pendant in the shape of a spirit fox hanging around its neck. Let's go out and have a look. He smiled. In a good mood, he bent over and hugged the smaller-sized fox and walked away while caressing it. He moved forward and saw the so-called Kunlun ruins from a distance. Kunlun ruins was different from what ordinary people understood it as. It was just a huge mountain range larger than Blue Planet and was surrounded by streamers. The reason behind its name was because of its similar shape to the Kunlun Mountains. On the upper, lower, left, and right sides of Kunlun ruins were boundless space cracks. Any of the space cracks here were bigger than the moon, and some big ones were boundless. At every moment, monsters, densely packed and innumerable, burrowed and drilled into these space cracks. However, the strange thing was that these monsters did not leave this area and only flew around with Kunlun ruins in the middle. They continuously attacked the streamers outside as if there was something particularly attractive to them inside. Su Bai was at least a few million kilometers away from Kunlun ruins, and the lights emitted by these attacks could be seen from such a long distance, which was enough to show the power of the attacks. Nonetheless, even such a terrifying attack still failed to break through that layer of streamers, showing how formidable the defensive power of the streamers were. The legendary pet coveted by Dragon King Amethyst was in Kunlun ruins, surrounded by these streamers. Let's go. Fly closer to see the situation, Su Bai said while caressing the soft fur of the fox. With careful calculation and observation, he realized that the monsters around were too powerful. It was too dangerous to come here with his current strength, and the risk was too great to be cost-effective. Another reason was that it was not time to enter Kunlun ruins yet. Although the streamers of Kunlun ruins were strong, they were divided into strong and weak cycles. During the weak cycle, Kunlun ruins could be entered through some special means. Judging from the current situation, there was still 1 or 2 years away from the streamers following weak cycle. Although there might be some special ways to enter in advance, he did not know these ways. Most of the information about Kunlun ruins was obtained from the bearded, brawny man, and he naturally could not know some secret information. Ah Bai, are you giving up on the legendary pet? The elf asked curiously. No, I'm waiting to go back and make some preparations. We'll come again, it's not that easy to catch it, so it's unlikely to be caught in a short time. Su Bai shook his head. After careful thinking, he felt that it was most unwise for him to go now. First, he did not understand the situation of Kunlun ruins and needed to investigate it more. Second, he may be unable to catch the pet now. However, if he returned to do some preparations, the success rate would definitely be higher. He had only seen all the information through pictures, including the pet's habits. By prescribing the right solution to a problem, even if he dared not say that it was certain, he would definitely have higher chances of succeeding than others. The elf nodded instinctively. Howl Tilda, I see. I was wondering why the dog Bai gave up. Su Bai, come on. Let's go back and make preparations. We'll follow the original evacuation plan, he said. Understood. Starting execution. Planet I acted immediately. This was an evacuation plan drawn up a long time ago, and they flew much faster than the normal speed upon their flight back. On the 5th day, Planet I suddenly issued a report. Bai, an abnormality is found ahead. The space fluctuation is chaotic, and there's a suspected space crack. Su Bai was in the process of making potions. He quickly stopped the matter at hand and looked up at the image shown on the big screen. In the image, The originally intact void suddenly shattered like glass, and then a group of black monsters flew out from it. After wandering around for a while, they flew straight in the direction of Blue Planet. After a short while, 3 more space cracks were opened, and a group of grey snake monsters emerged. They exuded a gloomy aura and seemed capable of dyeing everything grey wherever they went. Report: several space cracks have formed here, and a large number of monsters are emerging from them. It is recommended to detour. Planet I issued another report as it projected the situation one by one on the large screen in the hall. Su-bai was no stranger to this scene and had encountered it hundreds of times along the way. It seemed that the space barriers of the Abyss Star territory were very fragile and could be easily broken by monsters. However, what was stranger was that these monsters rushed toward Blue Planet as soon as they came out, so it was no wonder that the monsters in their world could not be exterminated. Su-bai was very curious about the origin of these monsters. Abyss Star territory was an abandoned place, and even stars did not have territories where these monsters could thrive, so it was impossible for so many of them to be born. Judging from the situation, these monsters also flew from other places, but he did not know where. "All right. Let's go around them." Su-bai nodded and said. He just wanted to go back quickly now and did not want to waste time. After bypassing them, he continued to walk back. The speed of Planet I was not fast, but the deployment plan had been completed, and they were now mainly collecting resources. Report: a red rocky planet with a thin atmosphere is found ahead. The gravity is 3 times that of Blue Planet. There is no violent activity and no sign of life. The core has cooled and there is no magnetic field. According to my analysis, there are spiritual fluctuations inside, so there should be spirit veins buried deep within. After traveling for half a month, a red planet, which looked normal, was brought into view. Land and dig directly for the spirit veins. Digging here should be enough, Su-bai nodded and said. He turned and jumped on the back of the starry omnivore kraken with purple jade. On him. Still concealed, Pee-pee Kraken slightly shook and then revealed its huge body of 20 kilometers long. It's quite soft and comfortable to sit on you. Purple Jade stepped on the Kraken's back and gave this remark. The starry omnivore Kraken's back felt as smooth as a whale's, and its surface had a dreamlike streamer similar to a nebula. It felt cold to the touch, thanks to the water screen. On the other side, Planet I turned into a circular core, which slowly fell toward the fiery red planet. As it fell, it gradually emitted a golden light and eventually disappeared on the planet. This was its planet control feature, which let Planet I directly integrate into a planet and gain control of it. Because this red mass was a dead star, the process of integration was very simple. Planet I easily did it with its current strength. However, if this was a living planet, the difficulty would be increased exponentially. Let's go down and take a stroll to see the situation. Su-bai motioned to his pets. After integrating with the planet, Planet I directly obtained all the resources contained within through the planet control feature. It only needed to wait for a while. Nonetheless, Su-bai decided to go and take a look as he was very curious about this alien planet. Time flowed like water, and another month passed in the blink of an eye. Planet I emerged from the red planet, which was now torn apart and completely dead. It might take several million years before these fragments converge into a planet again. On the other side, the golden Planet I, which had absorbed enough metal, had grown to its current 5 kilometers in diameter. Its breath had also directly reached the peak high-level commander. In addition, it managed to collect spirit veins. There was no other way. It was very difficult for these dead stars to form spirit veins. Besides the spirit veins, what surprised Su-bai was that the verdant the size of a human head was filled with lavender jade. This precious stone of the highest quality was called the Origin Purple Jade. The spiritual power contained in it was comparable to at least 10 spirit veins, and it had the effect of stimulating the breakthrough and evolution of pets. When worn by a human, it had the effect of transforming the body, stabilizing beauty, and prolonging life. It could also be used to make various rune props and was a superb material. I didn't expect such good things to be inside this planet. We got lucky. He could not but shake his head before putting everything away. The existence of 10 spirit veins is also related to this Origin Purple Jade. They all grow around it, relying on the jade to absorb the energy that has escaped from the void. Under normal circumstances, in a few million years, this planet may be able to recover because of this, but given the current situation in this star field, it should have no hope of recovery, reported Planet I. This entire star territory is dying, and the fate of the planet is already doomed. Let's go. We're ready to retreat, Subai returned to Planet I and said. He summoned his contract book and kept the starry omnivore kraken. Understood. Everything is ready, we can leave at any time, said 1314. Let's go. He glanced at the gloomy starry space and ordered this. He had been in the Abyss Star territory for almost a year, and it was now time to leave. Going back was much faster than coming here. Since Planet I had clones, he let it leave a clone every few distances. Through the electromagnetic transmission feature, it could be directly transmitted to the location where these clones were located. This way, their speed was also much faster. The reason for finding so many spirit veins was also that the transmission was too costly, and only the spirit veins could replenish it in time. Yes, my electromagnetic transmission is activated. The mechanical voice of 1314 sounded. It then emitted a golden light before disappearing in the starry space following the flash of light. Not long after, its figure appeared again. Subai stood on it and looked at the starry space, his eyes deep as water. Come out, he said in a deep voice. Some time ago, someone had actually avoided the perception of him and his pets and noiselessly confined them in this vast, starry space. 5 people also appeared with the giant dragon. The leader was Xiao Yulong, an old acquaintance that Subai was very familiar with. As for the girl next to him, he also recognized her as Ziyi, the daughter of Yulong Gymnasium's curator. I was wondering who it was. It turned out to be Senior Xiao. What are you doing with such a big army? Subai smiled. He did not really expect Xiao Yulong to enter Abyss Star territory just to chase him and did not know what kind of method the latter had used to find his exact location. Moreover, he did not expect that Xiao Yulong had actually found a peak high-level sovereign giant dragon, which was only one step away from immortality. I don't want to talk nonsense. I'll give you a chance to hand over the divine skill you acquired in the Blood Moon world. I can let you go alive once you do so, said Xiao Yulong as he narrowed his eyes at Subai, not wanting to talk nonsense with him. You can just think about how you will leave here alive. He glanced at the new arrival, then looked around, and shouted at the starry space. Am I right, Hidden Senior? Huh? Someone else is here. Startled, Xiao Yulong's back ran cold. He glanced around and sneered thereafter. Don't play this kind of despicable trick, you can't fool me. This is that guy you said who's very difficult to deal with. He looks foolish and is someone who's very full of himself. Ziyi glanced at Subai and revealed a trace of contempt. She did not understand why he had to bring a sovereign pet over to deal with such a person. It was a bit redundant in her opinion. At this moment, a strong voice rang from behind them. How interesting. You actually discovered me. Hearing this voice, Xiao Yulong and the others only felt their hands and feet turn cold as cold sweat broke on their backs. Someone had been right behind them all along. From beginning to end, they had not noticed even the slightest trace of this person, even with a giant dragon, which was infinitely close to the immortal grade. Slowly, they turned their heads and looked around. A man in a white suit with purple hair and purple eyes was sitting on a huge amethyst mammoth. The undead monster, Amethyst Town Mammoth. Your Dragon King Amethyst, one of the 12 dragon slayers. Xiao Yulong's pupils shrank at once. He had not expected Dragon King Amethyst to be here. This signaled trouble for him. Subai's face was also solemn. Sure enough, it was this Amethyst Town Mammoth that had suppressed the space and made his Planet I pet unable to teleport away. Amethyst Town Mammoth was said to be extremely heavy and was born with a strong restraining power, which only grew more terrifying as it grew up. Just by standing here, it could automatically restrain the surrounding space. Otherwise, normal space blockade could not stop Planet I because it relied on electromagnetic transmission, not space transmission, and required very little space power. This was why he had been so certain about this Dragon Slayer's presence. Senior, I'm Wei Ya's subordinate. Please let me leave with your magnanimous heart and I won't bother your hunting of dragons, he bowed and said with his hands folded. You can go, but leave behind your ancestor blood dragon. I'll spare your life on account of Wei, Dragon King Amethyst said with a smile. He originally intended to ambush the Dark Knight dragon, but he did not expect to find the ancestor blood dragon along with it. It really did not take much effort on his part. With both the ancestor blood dragon and Dark Knight dragon, he could become the fourth permanent Dragon King of the organization and receive a large number of rewards from Black Dragon King. At the thought of this, his heart palpitated excitedly and his mood immediately got better. It seems that we have to cooperate, Senior Xiao Yulong. Su Bai turned to look at the other man. Xiao Yulong had already recovered his calmness at this time. Hearing his words, he nodded. Give me the Blood Moon divine skill and we can leave here alive. That thing is useless in your hands. After going out, I promise not to make trouble for you again. Deal? Su Bai could not help but chuckle. He turned to look at Dragon King Amethyst and said, Senior, if you kill this Dark Knight dragon, I'll offer you my ancestor blood dragon with both hands. You. Xiao Yulong was furious. You're digging your own grave. Enough. A wicked smile appeared at the corner of Dragon King Amethyst's mouth. You really have no respect for your predecessor. Mammoth, unleash your gravity field and amethyst chains. As his words fell, a purple light burst out, and the invisible force enveloped everyone. Infinite gravity squeezed them down, making it difficult to move. Upon closer inspection, even the surrounding void was squeezed and deformed. If they were not both high-level pet tamers who received strong backfeeding from their pets, they would be unable to bear the pressure. At the moment the domain was formed, dozens of amethyst-like chains condensed out of thin air and flew toward the Dark Knight dragon, like a series of terrifying purple pythons. Roar. Facing the Amethyst Town mammoth, the giant dragon did not dare to slack off and immediately burst forth with full response. It unleashed its dark realm and sprayed out its original black dragon's breath to attack the amethyst-like chains. The two attacks collided. Under the influence of the dark realm and the dragon's breath, these chains were quickly infected and destroyed. Even so, Xiao Yulong's face was still ugly. As the heir to an aristocratic family, he deeply understood the big gap between a sovereign pet and immortal pet. The dark realm is useful to other attacks but useless in the face of the gravity field. Amethyst chains, faraway land. Following the order of Dragon King Amethyst, the Amethyst Town mammoth suddenly transformed into a complete body, becoming a terrifying giant mammoth with a body length of 10 kilometers. With a flick of its long nose, it lifted its front legs high and then brought them down fast. Shattering the surrounding void, infinite chains of amethyst descended from all sides of the Dark Knight dragon. These chains were several times more terrifying than the ones moments ago, and each one was tens of meters thick. The upper part exuded a horrible aura, which banned and suppressed everything. Looking at the purple chains that had formed a cage from all sides, the Dark Knight dragon panicked. If his master were here, it could continue fighting. Alone, it was no match for an immortal existence. The immortal grade was an existence that had completely mastered its own original law, and the Amethyst Town mammoth had mastered the terrifying law of suppression. As long as the opponent was hit by its amethyst chains, its spiritual power, including its physical power, would be sealed away. This skill was notoriously difficult to deal with. Use your dragon origin skill, Absolute Darkness. Xiao Yulong suddenly shouted. Roar. Dark Knight dragon did not hesitate, nor did it dare to hesitate. Its wings shook and it let out a roar. Infinite black light came from its body, bursting forth with all its spiritual power. However, strangely enough, it did not destroy the chains of amethyst but directly rammed against the chains head-on. The chains were shrouded by the black light coming from its body and instantly turned black as if they had fallen into ink. Eject your spiritual power. Dragon King Amethyst found that something was wrong and said quickly. However, it was already too late. In an instant, the Amethyst Town mammoth turned black and stood motionless on the spot like a statue as if it had been sealed. This was the effect of absolute darkness. It could infect spiritual power and was almost unavoidable. After hitting the opponent, the giant dragon would drag it into absolute darkness and remove all its perception for a period of time. At this time, the Amethyst Town mammoth could not even feel its owner, Dragon King Amethyst. Run quickly. Xiao Yulong looked at his dragon, of which the body was entangled with many black chains and the breath had plummeted tremendously. He threw out a crystal, which the dragon swallowed. It then directly tore through the void and took Xiao Yulong and the others into it. On the other end, Su Bai had already started to escape. He was already thousands of kilometers away at this time, and upon feeling the disappearance of the Amethyst Town mammoth, he quickly said, "Planet I, hurry up and use electromagnetic transmission." Planet I, which was always ready, activated the skill to teleport as soon as it received the order. Hee. You want to run? You're overestimating your own abilities. A cruel look flashed on the Dragon King Amethyst's face. Although he had miscalculated the power of the Dark Knight Dragon's trick, he definitely would not allow these ants to make a fool of him. An epic-grade contract book exuding a special aura appeared out of thin air. When the pages of the book were flipped, 2 sovereign behemoths flew out, and in a flash, they caught up with Su Bai, Xiao Yulong, and the others who were trying to escape. A breath of horror rushed over, and for a while, both could not help but feel a little desperate. Despicable. Its height of 2,000 meters once again skyrocketed, and special flame patterns spread across its body like magma. Its pair of flame wings behind blotted out the surroundings, and its aura directly reached the peak high-level monarch. It fired 2 scarlet rays and raised its head to reveal the evolved form of the Purgatory Tyrant. The terrifying aura it exuded made people tremble. Just by being there, it turned everything within a few hundred kilometers of its surroundings into lava purgatory, making it feel like the blazing sun was there. Designated Enhanced Skill, Fire Theft and Killer. Su Bai tapped the contract book, and an extremely powerful force once again descended on Little Tyrant. Roar. It let out a deafening roar as its wings shook, and it directly tore the space and flew toward the Golden Crow. A transparent flame in its claws firmly locked onto the Golden Crow. Well, you really have such a powerful divine skill. God is really helping me. Dragon King Amethyst was not surprised to see this scene and rejoiced, instead. The ability of this Blood Moon divine skill made him very excited. Such a powerful ability was definitely the top divine skill. What excited him more was that this divine skill would soon belong to him. He was really blessed by God. As for the evolution of the Purgatory Tyrant, he did not pay attention to it. What if it exploded and killed the Golden Crow? He still had dozens of such sovereign pets. Golden Crow, kill this Purgatory Tyrant. It's a waste of this divine skill to use this weak pet. Upon receiving its owner's order, the Golden Crow flew toward the dino directly. With a bang, the two collided with the sound of piercing flesh and blood. The victim was the dino, which would have been killed directly if not for the power of the divine skill. However, at the exact moment of contact, the dino pierced the Golden Crow's body with Fire Theft. Although Fire Theft and Killer were 2 different skills, they could be integrated and had an exponential increase in power after being strengthened. Once in the opponent's body, all of the Golden Crow's fire skills were blocked, and its life force was also continuously absorbed. However, the Golden Crow did not care. Without its fire skill, it still had the metal attribute as well as its physical power, which were enough to kill the dino. Roar. At this moment, a dragon chant sounded, followed by a red light flying out of Su Bai's wrist. In the blink of an eye, a peerless dragon with a body length of 5 kilometers appeared in the starry space. This, upon feeling the blood dragon's aura, the cub and the others were stunned. When did it become so strong? What was even more incredulous was that it had not been blessed by the Blood Moon divine skill, yet its aura had already reached the Emperor grade. The pets had no idea when it had broken through to the Emperor grade. Evolve the specified skill, Crush Claw. Su Bai did not have time to explain. As soon as he activated the divine skill and pointed with his finger, the blood dragon's aura skyrocketed again, instantly reaching the peak high-level Emperor. Its size skyrocketed to a terrifying level of 10 kilometers, the mysterious blood-colored dragon pattern spread around its body, and an ancient and vast evil primordial dragon's breath filled the air. In a flash, the surroundings turned bloody, with seas churning and interstellar clouds gathering all around. This aura just rose but already seemed to have the power of shaking everything, reversing mountains and rivers. In the distance, Dark Knight Dragon felt this terrifying aura and inevitably revealed a trace of terror. Blood flowed uncontrollably throughout its body. The ancestor blood dragon represented a different kind of dragon and was regarded as a traitor of the most evil kind by the dragon species. Even the evil dragon camp was unwilling to join forces with it, but its horror and power had always been an undying legend. Roar. With a deafening roar, the ancestor blood dragon lifted its claws and waved it around. Blood condensed on its claws, finally turning into a cross blood-killing mark before flying outward. Where the blood-colored light in the shape of a cross passed, the fragile void was directly shattered. The power of the dragon's consummate skill was undoubtedly revealed at this moment. Your god-dragon origin skill is pretty powerful, but your ancestor blood dragon is too weak. Forget it. I'll show you how strong a sovereign's consummate skill is. Golden Crow, use the sky-splitting golden beak. Dragon King Amethyst was still aloof and was not bothered about it. He glanced at Amethyst Town Mammoth, which was about to regain its perception, and felt that it was time to end this farce. Faced with this situation, Golden Crow gathered metal power on its beak to form an indestructible attack as it rushed toward the ancestor blood dragon. Subai narrowed his eyes and said nothing, but he was a little worried. The complicated situation here caused the electromagnetic transmission of Planet I to become slower than ever. There was no other way, though. Planet I was only a high-level commander, the first among those at the peak of the grade. Surrounded by these monarchs that could easily kill it and being in this type of environment, it was already doing great by maintaining uninterrupted transmission. With a ding, the claws of the ancestor blood dragon collided with the golden beak of the Golden Crow. After a short pause, the latter's golden beak shattered like an egg hitting a stone. It did not end here, though. The blood-colored cross light flickered continuously, and the sound of blood-cutting clatter became pervasive. The entire Golden Crow was torn apart in the surrounding void, and blood mist exploded, instantly dyeing the starry space red tens of miles across. Huh! Dragon King Amethyst was taken aback, showing a rare look of surprise and shock. He could not understand why this scene had occurred. Even if the ancestor blood dragon was strong, it was only a low-level emperor and reached the peak of the grade thanks to the divine skill's blessing. With the huge gap between the Golden Crow and it should be impossible for the dragon to win. Regardless if it was spiritual strength, physical strength, or law control, the sovereign Golden Crow was beyond the strength of the current ancestor blood dragon. Even if it was a consummate skill, it was impossible to achieve this result. It seems like you have a lot of secrets. Very good, very good. You have completely provoked me. I want to see how strong you are. Amethyst Town Mammoth, use amethyst chains. Dragon King Amethyst chuckled angrily, the corners of his mouth forming a sneer again. Not only did he send out the Amethyst Town Mammoth, which had just recovered its perception, he also released 10 powerful sovereign pets. Seeing this terrifying sight, Subai felt despair in his heart. These veteran masters were really terrifying. There were so many pets in their hands that it was nigh impossible to beat them. Moreover, the Amethyst Town Mammoth had recovered too quickly. It had taken only more than 30 seconds for it to recover. This caused the electromagnetic transmission, which was about to be completed, to be disrupted. As for the ancestor blood dragon, although it was very strong, everything seemed futile in front of this unreasonable opponent. I have my own plan. Subai did not agree to such a request. Little Tyrant and the other pets had already requested him to escape several times, but he refused to do so. It was meaningless to him. The blood dragon's sacrifice could indeed allow him to escape, but he was unwilling and felt that there was still some room for resistance. Not much time is left. Have you thought about it? He glanced at Xiao Yulong, who was not far away, and asked through his voice transmission skill. Xiao Yulong and the others were fighting against a blood jade hydra. At this moment, they had already sacrificed 4 pets. Although the Dark Knight Dragon sealed the perception of the Amethyst Town Mammoth, its injury also caused its spiritual power to be blocked, greatly reducing its combat power. If Subai had not attracted Dragon King Amethyst's attention earlier, they would have been defeated long ago. I give my promise, But I hope that your word counts, too. There was silence for 2 seconds, but Xiao Yulong eventually agreed. He could only agree because he himself had no way of escaping the pursuit of this dragon slayer. I'm a man of my words. Little dragon, go, Subai said indifferently. The next moment, the blood dragon suddenly raised its claws and burst forth with infinite blood. A cross-blood-killing mark tore through the void and slashed at the blood jade hydra. Even Dragon King Amethyst did not expect to face so many opponents, yet Subai actually dared to let Little Blood Dragon clone itself and attack the Blood Jade Hydra. Hiss! Blood Jade Hydra let out a roar of fright and anger. It was originally caught off guard by this attack, and coupled with the restraint of Dark Knight Dragon, even if it tried to avoid this attack, 3 heads were directly cut off. What terrified it most was this power which spread throughout its whole body uncontrollably. Even with all its effort and might, it could not prevent the spread. With a bang, the huge blood jade hydra unexpectedly exploded and colored the sky with bloody fog. Incomparably pure blood congealed in the starry space amid the scarlet mist, and bloodlight went directly into the ancestor blood dragon's body. Roar! For a moment, the ancestor blood dragon's breath diffused in the surroundings once more as it unexpectedly broke through to the peak emperor grade, reaching the terrifying level of a low-level sovereign. Very good, very good. I want all of you to wish you were dead. This situation completely angered Dragon King Amethyst. He could not believe that he had lost 2 of his sovereign pets to these puny individuals, especially the Hydra that had 9 lives. This was simply unforgivable. He only felt his lungs exploding from his anger, and the determination to make this group of small fries feel pain and despair filled him. Since you like struggling so much, struggle as much as you want. You are asking to feel what despair is, so I want to see what waves you can bring. Furious, Dragon King Amethyst unexpectedly released 10 sovereign pets again. After continuous losses, his contempt was completely let go. In an instant, 10 sovereign monsters and an immortal monster directly surrounded Subai and the others. The terrifying coercion they exuded seemed capable of squeezing the space into pieces. In the face of this, Subai remained nonchalant. He already knew when he made this decision that he would inevitably anger this 12th dragon slayer. Dragon King Amethyst had to blame himself for underestimating his enemy. He dared to release a blood pet despite knowing that Subai had an ancestor blood dragon. He must know that the latter's pet was born invincible against blood monsters. The cross-blood killing mark just then contained not only the first dragon blood of its subordinates but also the blood curse. As long as the blood jade hydra was hit, it would surely be killed. It could not resurrect itself even if it had 9 lives. However, all this was not the end and was just the beginning. Bursting with sovereign aura, the ancestor blood dragon directly expanded its sea of blood domain soundlessly. A monstrous blood sea descended from above and covered tens of kilometers. The various effects of erosion, assimilation, corrosion, and filth unfolded. Under the suppression of the sea of blood, the strength of these monsters entering the domain was greatly reduced, while the combat power of ancestor blood dragon was increased and strengthened again. Roar! Little blood dragon flicked its tail, and as the sea of blood tossed, bloody waves of light eroded the monsters with terrifying erosion and corruption. At this moment, it also unleashed cross-blood killing mark to attack those monsters that seemed weaker. However, the effect was not as good as before because there was the extra horror of an immortal monster. Purple light erupted from within the sea of blood, and the powerful sea of blood retreated steadily. Terrifying gravity enveloped Little Blood Dragon suddenly, greatly reducing its speed. At the same time, tens of thousands of purple chains shrouded from all directions, forming a cage that constantly squeezed Little Blood Dragon's range of movement. Amethyst Town Mammoth used its full strength to restrain the ancestor blood dragon with its terrifying gravity field. The amethyst chains formed a cage, which sealed the dragon's entire body. Everything seemed to be over. There was no need for other monsters to take action at all. The ancestor blood dragon, which had just been in the limelight, was now overwhelmed and breathless. The chains unleashed using the Amethyst Town Mammoth's full strength could even block spiritual attacks, and Blood Dragon was not its opponent at all. Just when everything was about to end, infinite black light suddenly burst out of the sea of blood. The Dark Knight Dragon then appeared out of thin air, and 1,000 feet of black lights burst out from its body, which headed toward the Amethyst Town Mammoth. "Ha, you want to do it again? In your dreams?" Dragon King Amethyst sneered, having expected this scene. As his voice fell, a dozen sovereign monsters flew over to block the Dark Knight Dragon by surrounding it. Even if it activated absolute darkness again, it could only make the sovereign pets in front of it lose their perception. However, in the next moment, its aura suddenly spiked once more, and its body ignited with black flames. The black rays of light skyrocketed in a terrifying manner. "No, Amethyst Mammoth, seal it quickly. It plans to burn its origin so it can release its consummate skill." Dragon King Amethyst was taken aback for a moment, and then his expression changed drastically. This dragon was actually intending to sacrifice itself by directly burning its origin to release its consummate skill. This dragon slayer got scared upon seeing this scene. If he did not prevent the dragon from unleashing its consummate skill by burning its origin, it would likely cause all existences to lose their perception, including his own. At that time, Subai and the others could easily kill him. Amethyst Town Mammoth seemed to understand what its owner was worried about and quickly removed the chain that had sealed the ancestor blood dragon. It quickly enveloped the Dark Knight Dragon, forming an absolute blockade. The number of amethyst chains it used increased by 100 times. Subai glanced at the scene in the starry space. It was a good time for a sneak attack, but he did not let the blood dragon do it. Once the Dark Knight Dragon's consummate skill spread, he would definitely lose his perception as well. He did not expect Xiao Yulong to be moral and keep to his words. Now was the best time. "Get ready, let's go." Subai glanced at Xiao Yulong, who had already set foot on Planet I, and said indifferently. The black light in space exploded, and all the chains of amethyst shattered with a bang. Under the spread of the black light, the Amethyst Town Mammoth and the nearby sovereign monsters all lost their perception. At the same time, the blood dragon also used its sea of blood domain to create a stable environment. Under such an environment, the electromagnetic transmission speed of Planet I greatly increased. In just a few seconds that it was launched successfully, they disappeared into the void. With the disappearance of the absolute darkness skill of the Dark Knight Dragon, Subai's location became empty. Only a broken void and a diffusing blood mist could be seen. Standing still with his eyes narrowed was the silent Dragon King Amethyst. After a long time, he slowly recovered his calmness. "Very well, Subai. I'll remember this." No one could feel the degree of his killing intent when he said this sentence. This was naturally the group who had just escaped the pursuit of Dragon King Amethyst. Standing atop Planet I, Xiao Yulong and the others looked at Subai and felt a clear understanding of his power. Everything they had just experienced today made them unable to calm down, including the sudden appearance of the 12th Dragon Slayer, as well as the shocking combat power that Subai had shown in the battle. At this time, Ziyi finally understood why Xiao Yulong valued the young man so much. Her inner contempt had long since disappeared. This person hid his strength too deeply. Everyone thought that he only had a monarch strength and did not expect that his true combat power could kill a sovereign existence. What was even more terrifying was that his Blood Moon divine skill not only had the effect of increasing combat power but also the function of assisting his pets. This kind of divine skill was extremely rare. In some respects, it was much stronger than the 9 divine skills in the Alliance and had endless possibilities. After sensing the safety of the surrounding area, the elf and the other pets tacitly surrounded Xiao Yulong and his group. The Blood Moon divine skill gradually subsided. Both the Dino and the dragon returned to their original state. Little Tyrant was seriously injured. Coupled with the period of weakness caused by the use of the divine skill, it no longer had any power left to fight. However, the blood dragon was different. Not only did its aura not fall, it also reached peak low-level Emperor. All this was due to the sovereign blood jade hydra, of which the origin was too supplementary for it. Looking at the pets who were ready to attack, Subai glanced at Xiao Yulong and his party. The smell of gunpowder was thick in the air. "How did you track me down?" he asked. "There are always some pets with unusual talents." Xiao Yulong glanced at him and said, "Are you ready to solve our problems?" Subai pondered for a few seconds, but in the end he did not do anything. He waved his hand and said, "You can leave now. If you become my enemy again, don't blame me for not being merciful." He did not want to attack him and was instead afraid of Dragon King Amethyst chasing after him. 100,000 kilometers was not very far for an immortal monster. At full speed, it would take 10 minutes. "Although you saved us this time, I also paid with my sovereign Dark Knight Dragon, so we don't owe each other." Xiao Yulong breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Su Bai's decision. He was really not sure about winning the battle now, mainly because they had lost a lot of pets. However, he refused to show weakness on the surface. "As for our next meeting, we'll still be opponents. I'll take my leave now." With that, he took his girlfriend Ziyi and quickly left. "Good riddance," Su Bai said while standing on Planet Eye and watching them leave. "Planet Eye, tell me at once when you're done replenishing your spiritual power." "We'll leave immediately," he said. "Yes, my spiritual power has been replenished by 45%, replied Planet Eye. "Bai, why didn't you attack them? We have a high chance of killing them," the Dino asked inexplicably. Although it was seriously injured, it felt that there was nothing wrong with killing Xiao Yulong and the others. "Dragon King Amethyst might be coming after us." He glanced at it. In fact, the most important thing was that, in the previous battle, he had seen the information of a plant monster, the four-colored willow tree, that belonged to Xiao Yulong's girlfriend, Ziyi. With that emperor pet around, he was not sure that he could end the battle quickly. "Bai, when did Sister Dragon become so powerful?" Purple Jade asked while treating the Dino. Mewling Fox and Little Tyrant were also very curious. "It was promoted not long after coming to the Abyss Star territory. I think it's because the broken Blood Moon world has completely integrated into the Blue Planet," Su Bai explained briefly. The number of blood curses acquired by the Blood Dragon had surged immediately after entering here, indicating that a large number of blood descendants had died. On the other hand, it felt that the number of first dragon blood was also increasing rapidly, and Su Bai had basically determined the cause. It should be that the Blood Moon world had integrated into Blue Planet. After the Blood Dragon was promoted to the Emperor grade, he continued to use the attribute Light Balls to strengthen its primary skill, Crush Claw. It reached a terrifying point where it could tear the void with a light wave of its claws. This was why it had been able to kill 2 sovereign monsters in a row. "Report, my spiritual power has been replenished. I can proceed with electromagnetic transmission." The mechanical sound of Planet Eye sounded at this time. "Teleport us away then," Su Bai ordered. "Okay." Planet Eye directly initiated the teleportation. "Howl. Bai, I also want to become stronger quickly," the elf raised its head and said. "Roar. I do, too. Hing. Same for me." Little Tyrant and Mewling Fox also expressed their strong desire to become stronger. Su Bai thought for a while and then nodded in agreement. "Coincidentally, you'll all go to the Imperial Beast Gymnasium to practice for a while when you go back this time. It just happens that I have a place there." After dozens of times of such teleportation, they finally arrived at the entrance to the Abyss Star territory. It was just that the environment here had changed drastically. The space was shattered, cracks connecting to other dimensions could be seen everywhere in the area with groups of monsters drilling out of them. "According to my detection, the space channel has been occupied by monsters," 1314 said. "It doesn't matter, they are all monsters that are not very strong." Su Bai shook his head and released the starry omnivore kraken before sitting in place and waiting. After about a day, the surroundings became clean, and even the space cracks had disappeared, leaving only the passage to go back. "Onam." A looming figure cruised in front of Su Bai, and a pair of big black holes looked at him. This was naturally the starry omnivore kraken, but at this time, its body length had reached 50 kilometers, and its breath had also been directly elevated to the low-level monarch grade. "Okay, very good. I'll bring you to swallow something more delicious next time." Su Bai nodded in satisfaction. He was not surprised upon seeing this behemoth. This was the might of the kraken. It could swallow everything from north, south, east, and west in a single bite. However, the average kraken was naturally not as abnormal as this starry omnivore kraken. It was the egg of the king kraken and had swallowed altar fragments of the eternally miraculous beauty, which contained the power of miracles. It had also swallowed the remaining altar parts of the mermaid, recorder of all things. Hence, it had an extremely deep foundation and could swallow anything and everything. Normal krakens had an extremely powerful ability to swallow, but that was limited. Okay, let's go. It's time to go back. Subai opened his contract book and kept the starry omnivore kraken before standing up. As Planet I flew into the space channel, he could not help but feel excited. Finally, he was returning to Blue Planet. However, even if most of the cracks were sealed, the Pet Alliance had to send personnel continuously so that they could take control of Heavenly Abyss. They were doing this because the space cracks still kept increasing. They needed manpower to seal them and to clean up the large number of monsters that had emerged. In a space crack at the edge of the abyss, a small camp of about a dozen people could be found. At this time, sounds of battles surged near the camp, and countless monsters continuously drilled out of the space crack to surround the camp. The head of the camp was a young man. While commanding a monarch golden-horned silver ankylosaurus and a few other pets to deal with the monsters that were rushing over, he used the portable communication device to comfort his teammates and give commands about the overall situation. D***MNit. What the hell is going on? How come these monsters are rushing out suddenly and desperately? If they continue like this, we won't be able to resist them. No, there are too many monsters. Hurry up and find a way. Otherwise, we really can't hold it. As time went on, everyone gradually lost the power to withstand the monsters' attacks. Most of the people's pets were injured, and even a few had been killed in battle. Don't worry, everyone, I already called for help. The rescue team is already on the way. As long as you hold on, everyone will gain a lot of contribution points this time. Captain Liu Dao glanced at the golden-horned silver ankylosaurus, whose spiritual power had already bottomed out, and said in reassurance. No way, Captain. At the current speed that these monsters are crawling out, I'm afraid that we'll die before the rescue arrives. The deputy captain looked at Liu Dao and gritted his teeth. No, let's take out the wind of space and throw it in. We can't withstand it if we don't close the space crack. The wind of space was one of the Alliance's special strategic weapons. It could be thrown out to make a space crack chaotic, preventing most monsters from invading and causing ordinary Emperor monsters to be sealed. No, our purpose for guarding this location is to provide support for the Pet Tamer who went in to investigate the situation. How can those inside get out if we throw the wind of space? Liu Dao frowned and shook his head. These are the true brave men who dared to venture deep within Heavenly Abyss. We must never do this kind of thing that cuts off their retreat route. Someone glanced at Liu Dao and whispered, no one has come back for a year. There is no hope, they are probably all dead. Why bother? The talents living here are more important. The group of people looked at Liu Dao blankly. Yes, no one had come out for a year, it was impossible now. Liu Dao looked at the members of his hunting team and sighed. To tell you the truth, the cracks in this space can't be sealed. This is what Yulong Gymnasium instructed. We can run, but the cracks can't be sealed. Otherwise, even if we leave alive, there'll be no place for us even in this big world. Why? Someone asked, puzzled. Because a year ago, the core disciple of Yulong Gymnasium and God Dragon Division entered this space crack. Liu Dao glanced into the distance and said. In fact, it was much more than that. God Dragon Division had also promised that if he behaved well, he could be recruited into Yulong Gymnasium. It was while he was thinking of this that a change happened in the space crack. A few snow-white huge insects emerged from it. What terrified the group was the monarch aura of these insects. These insects hurriedly crawled out of the space crack, felt around for a moment, and rushed straight toward the group. It's over. They're the unevolved larvae of underworld butterflies. Run quickly. Upon seeing these huge insects, their expressions changed drastically. These insects, which were larvae of undead monsters, did not fear death. Their speed was fast, and they liked absorbing vitality the most. Once the larvae had absorbed enough, they would instantly transform into underworld butterflies. The most terrifying thing was that they had a passive skill called butterfly transformation. As long as one was close to the existence of vitality, it would absorb that vitality autonomously. Seeing a group of these monarch larvae rushing to them, everyone trembled in horror. At a glance, they saw that these insects were directly sucking up the vitality of the other monsters on the way. No, we can't let them get close anymore. Quicksand crocodile, use ground traps to ward them off. Someone panicked when he saw the approaching larvae. However, when the commander quicksand crocodile controlled the insects, the latter suddenly accelerated and turned into white lights, which rushed past them. In a flash, they came to the crocodile, biting it down and sucking away its vitality. All of a sudden, the crocodile dried up and deflated. In an instant, many pets in the entire team suffered a similar fate. When Captain Liu Dao was hesitating if they should use Wind of Space, he heard the deputy captain yelling, "Everyone, hide quickly. These larvae don't seem to be directed at us. They seem to be running away." Hearing this, the others quickly avoided the swarm of insects. Indeed, the larvae ran away without looking at them at all. Everyone sucked in a breath and looked at Captain Liu Dao with solemn expressions. Liu Dao's expression also changed. If even the terrifying larvae of underworld butterflies were on the run, what kind of monsters was there in this space crack? At this time, everyone observed the space crack carefully and discovered that the monsters did not appear to launch an invasion at all but were, instead, running for their lives. At the thought of this, the fear gripping their hearts worsened. "Captain, don't hesitate. Whatever it is down there can be delayed for a while if you throw in the Wind of Space. We'll all die if the monster comes out of the space crack," the deputy captain shouted eagerly. "Yes, Yulong Gymnasium will certainly not blame us for this situation." The members all encouraged him. "All right." Liu Dao gritted his teeth, took out a silver white ball, and threw it into the space crack. The silver white ball exploded, and the endless wind of space raged, instantly causing the space crack to become extremely chaotic. Countless space fragments raged in it, and any monsters, which tried to crawl out, were shattered and turned into traces of red lights before disappearing. Phew! Fortunately, the monster did not come out. Everyone took a deep breath, finally feeling relieved. Onam! At this moment, a deep but very penetrating sound came from the space crack. Liu Dao and the others followed the source, their expressions suddenly changing. A huge and scary mouth, which was several kilometers long, swallowed the entire wind of space and burst out of it. After seeing this guy's complete body, everyone swallowed involuntarily. They could not even see how big the monster was at a glance. They only knew that as soon as it came out, it concealed all the light. Those black eye holes with a diameter of several hundred meters looked at the crowd, killing intent boiling in them, as if the monster was ready to swallow them at any time. Almost everyone buckled to their knees, their whole bodies soaked in cold sweat. They tried desperately to escape, but their bodies were out of control. At this moment, they finally understood why even the terrifying underworld insects had to run away. In front of such a terrifying existence, they were waiting for their own death if they did not escape. "Did you throw the Wind of Space?" Just when everyone thought they were bound to die, a human figure appeared on the head of this huge monster, looking at them with aloof eyes. "This is or a pet." Everyone immediately came to a realization after seeing the human on top, but the shock in their hearts worsened further. "Speak." Su Bai's voice became colder. He seriously suspected that these people were deliberately trying to kill him. Originally, he was about to break out of the space crack, but someone suddenly threw the Wind of Space inside. If it had not been for the starry omnivore kraken, he might have died in the space crack. He went through the space crack specially guarded by the Alliance. It stood to reason that no matter what the situation was, it would not be allowed to be closed within 3 years. Facing Su Bai's questioning, Liu Dao sobered up a little and quickly stood up to explain. "Senior, you have misunderstood us. We saw a large number of monsters coming out and thought that a powerful monster was emerging. We just threw it out for our own safety. Because no one has come out for a year, we didn't expect a human being to come out at this time. I'm really sorry. You don't know this is the passage we go in and out of? You don't know the Pet Alliance's regulations? Don't you know that once this space passage is closed, we will never be able to get out?" demanded Su Bai coldly, feeling really infuriated. If it were not for him being strong, he would die today. Although they had gone involuntarily, they were also working for the Spirit Alliance. Abandoning them in this way was too bitterly disappointing. Senior, please punish us. The group of people lowered their heads. Being questioned by Subai, they were desperate to find a hole to hide in. After looking at this group of people for a few seconds, he released Planet Eye and jumped onto it. He then turned around and collected the starry omnivore kraken into his contract book. Onum. The kraken did not forget to swallow all the monsters within a radius of tens of kilometers before it satisfactorily entered the contract book. On the ground, Liu Dao and others were shocked by its strength. The place where dozens of them had struggled to survive was just a simple matter that could be cleaned up by this pet. Having regained their sanity at this time, they naturally recognized that the huge pet in Subai's hand was a super-large legendary monster that had disappeared in public, a kraken. We welcome the return of our senior brother. Welcome, senior brother. In the sky, a giant bone dragon flew over and stopped slightly in front of Subai. A woman in black on the back of the flying dragon saluted to him respectfully. This woman was Han Wei, who had first relied on Subai's help. Together with Ouyang. Her bone dragon was also the bloodline level that Subai had helped improve. It had been transformed into the dragon descendant of the ancestor blood dragon. Greetings, senior brother. Following Han Wei's salute, the other disciples who had come with her also saluted respectfully, looking at Subai with scorching eyes. You don't have to be courteous. There's no need to be so foreign to your own senior brother. Smiling slightly, Subai glanced at Han Wei and said, your bone dragon is pretty good. It has actually reached the emperor grade in just 1 year. That's all thanks to your help, senior brother, or else I wouldn't have my accomplishments today, said the woman respectfully. She, who originally came to join the rescue, had seen the entire situation in the air moments ago. Now, she respected Subai even more in her heart. With that terrifying giant kraken, she was sure that this man's promotion this year was definitely more terrifying compared to hers. Okay, come on up, said Subai. Han Wei glanced at Planet Eye curiously and felt that the planet's core, which had been captured by her and Ouyang before, had also undergone tremendous changes. It was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Subai's mysterious methods had given her a lot of surprises, and she was looking forward to the future. Senior brother, how should we deal with these people? After bringing the disciples on Planet Eye, Han Wei asked him. He glanced at Liu Dao and the others and then waved his hand. Check the situation. If they're not deliberately targeting me, then just forget it. Thinking about it carefully, Subai also understood the reason for their behavior. The culprit of the current situation might actually be him. He had let the starry omnivore kraken swallow everything on the other side of the space crack, causing some of the monsters to flee in fear. Nonetheless, having said that, it could not be ruled out that they were deliberately going against him, so it was better to check properly. Yes. Han Wei nodded. Okay, enough about them. Tell me about the changes on Blue Planet over the past year that I was gone, Subai said. But as for Yulong Gymnasium, things haven't been looking up. Han Wei glanced at Subai and slowly said, Zi Wuji, the son of the curator, is in the giant dragon division. A tacit agreement was reached internally, and now he's become the leader. Because of your absence, the formality in the God Dragon division has become more complicated. Since you distributed materials before you left, most of the task quota has been given to me and Ouyang. This caused dissatisfaction among the core and inner disciples of those with vested interests. There's no shortage of means, and even a good part of them had already fallen to Zi Wuji's side. Fortunately, we have a lot of strength when we combine those with dragons as well, but the elite and ordinary disciples who don't have dragon pets pure enough to reach the pureblood level will have to rely on your resources. The only problem is that we promised those people that if they perform well, they can obtain your help to improve the conditions of their dragon pet's blood. Subai nodded slowly upon hearing this, understanding why those disciples had been looking at him so passionately. You guys did a good job. It's not a big problem to improve their dragon pet's bloodline. I'll help a group of them once we return. That's good. Han Wei breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. What about the elders of God Dragon Division? No one has come out to speak up. He asked again. Han Wei shook her head and said, No, there are core disciples who have complained of unfairness who have gone to the elders. However, they were all rejected by the dean, saying that this matter has been handed over to you, and it depends on how you arrange it. He said it was all your business. If they don't agree, they can challenge you. That's helping me quite a bit. Subai nodded, slightly surprised. The dean is very optimistic about you. Han Wei smiled. Okay, I'll now issue a task to these disciples to find a kind of creature called the Nihility Koi. I want it alive, but there's no limit to the number, the more the better. The time limit is 6 months. As long as they can find more than 100 of them, I can help their dragon pets improve the quality of their blood. Subai took out a piece of paper with the information of Nihility Koi that he had written by hand and handed it to Han Wei. Han Wei originally thought that it would be a rare and powerful pet, but when she took a look, she found that this Nihility Koi had no grade. It was a strange fish that lived on the boundary between nothingness and reality. The number was scarce, and it did not gather in groups. Special methods were needed to capture them, but the task seemed to be very simple. I understand. I can now publish it through the internal app we've set up. She nodded. Although she did not understand why he was looking for this Nihility Koi, she did not ask any questions. Anyway, Subai had always been the mysterious type. She only needed to do the things that he arranged for them. Wait a minute. Post a few more messages about these materials. It's best if they can find them, otherwise, it's all right and they can just give me news of their whereabouts. Subai stopped Han Wei and gave her a list of several materials that he needed. Okay. Han Wei nodded. Is the Blood Moon world completely integrated into Blue Planet? He asked at the thought of this. Yes, it merged a few months ago. The merged location is around your hometown, Can. It has now become a new exploration area, attracting a lot of pet tamers. The Alliance has lifted the blockade of blood pets to a certain extent. Everyone can contract blood pets, which is very unfriendly to our dragon pets. Han Wei spread her hands. Subai nodded. The integration of other worlds into Blue Planet generally went through a process. After forming a secret realm, it would then further integrate into it. However, there were also those that directly integrated into it. After understanding the situation of the Blood Moon world, he thought that it was quite special. It had formed part of the secret realm, yet more of its part was directly integrated into Blue Planet. The Blood Moon world contained a large number of blood laws. After fusing with Blue Planet, various blood monsters and treasures sprang up like bamboo shoots after a rain. This situation was occurring worldwide, not just in a certain region. Hence, even the Alliance had to let go of the restrictions on blood pets. However, due to the integration of Blood Moon world into Blue Planet, these bloodline pets were no longer as evil and bloodthirsty as before. Although their nature had not changed, their condition was much better and they had also gained sanity. The newly born bloodline monsters no longer attacked everyone they saw. This was a good thing for him. The ancestor blood dragon could be said to be the ancestor of all blood monsters and was naturally invincible to blood pets. Not to mention that many of these blood pets were little blood dragon's blood subordinates. He estimated that many people had already contracted the blood subordinates of his pet dragon without knowing it. Naturally, he would not do anything against these people as long as they did not become his enemy. In fact, the blood subordinates of his pet dragon were very powerful and had natural endowments, having been evolved by the ancestor blood dragon's first dragon blood. Generally speaking, they were good as contracted pets. Unless they died, the difference from ordinary blood pets could not be seen. How dangerous are those blood monsters in the secret realm? He asked again. Most of them are okay. The bloodline pets in the secret realm are crazy. Unlike the sane ones on Blue Planet, they attack whenever they see people. That's only the tip of the iceberg, though, as there are many more horrors to uncover. The most horrible thing is that the secret realm has numerous flesh devourers. Those places are almost without life. It's said that there's a secret realm called Blood Beach, where there's a sea of blood, and floating on it is a peak sovereign flesh devourer. No one has come out alive yet. As she spoke about the flesh devourer, Han Wei showed a look of fear. That monster was truly terrifying. Is that so? Subai could not help but rub his nose. If he let the world know that those devourers were cultivated by him, he wondered what would happen. He took out his cell phone and did a search. Although most of the devourers were dead, hundreds of them still survived and were at least emperor grade. However, it was a pity that although the life and death of those devourers were controlled by his pet dragon, there was no way to control their will and actions and no way to use them for his own advantage. The photo showed a huge ball of bloody flesh floating in the sky with a diameter of several kilometers. It looked really terrifying. Yes, it said that there weren't so many devourers in the Blood Moon world before, but they have suddenly appeared for some reason. Han Wei nodded. Okay, I see. Su Bai nodded as well. For the time being, this secret could not be exposed, but in the future, he could tell Han Wei and let her secretly take someone over to obtain the treasure. Only those contaminated with the breath of the blood dragon would not be attacked by the flesh devourers. As they talked, they flew out of heavenly abyss. As the prosperous and huge East City in the distance drew nearer, Su Bai could not help but exclaim, "Ah, I'm finally back. Let's head to the gymnasium first. I'll take care of things there and then go back to school." Although he wanted to go home and see Chen Ruoxue, Yulong Gymnasium was just right in front of him. It was not appropriate for him not to go there. Having been gone for a long time, many disciples did not recognize him when he entered. However, he was not bothered by this and went straight to the God-Dragon division. "Senior brother, you must be careful. Many people have already received news of your return. Especially senior brother Zi Wuji, he might pose as a stumbling block to you," whispered Ouyangdu on the way. "I understand. You don't have to worry about that." He waved his hand dismissively. After experiencing a battle with Dragon King Amethyst, he had enough understanding of his strength and now had higher confidence in this kind of thing. Even if someone were to throw a sand sculpture at him now, he could easily punish the perpetrator as an example to others. He entered the gymnasium and went straight to the dean's office. He knocked 3 times. "Come in." The dean, Qin Miao's voice, sounded. You're back," Qin Miao said in surprise. "Su Bai, you already know that I am back. Why are you pretending?" "I did find out moments ago." Qin Miao smiled and spread her hands, motioning for Su Bai to sit down. She poured him a cup of tea and asked, "How did it go? Was Abyss Star territory fun?" "It's not fun. It took me a year to understand how precious sunshine is." Su Bai basked in the sun, which was shining through the window, and sighed contentedly. The stars in Abyss Star territory were dying, and most of the planets are also dead stars. That place felt like a cage and was too depressing. "You're right. Any other thing?" Qin Miao chuckled. "It's too big. I was traveling most of the time. I went to Kunlun ruins, but I only looked and left. On the way back, I was blocked by Xiao Yulong and Zi Yi. They even brought a peak sovereign Dark Knight dragon to chase me down. That can be overlooked, though. Who knew that Dragon King Amethyst had quietly followed him all the way? I almost died there after encountering the 12th Dragon Slayer. Fortunately, I managed to escape thanks to the Dark Knight dragon, which burned its origin to release its consummate skill." Su Bai shook his head. "If I died inside, I wouldn't even see my girlfriend for the last time. Other than that, I also investigated the monster's situation inside. I'll organize it into data and send everything to you later. Remember to report it to the Alliance for me." "You encountered Dragon King Amethyst?" Qin Miao jerked and stood up, completely caught off guard. Dragon King Amethyst was a heavenly king Pet Tamer who was much stronger than her, but Su Bai had actually managed to escape under his clutches. This was too shocking. Ordinary heavenly king Pet Tamers had epic contract books and sovereign pets. Although Dragon King Amethyst did own an epic contract book, he already had an immortal pet and could be said to be a half-step legendary pet tamer. He was much stronger than most heavenly king pet tamers but still could not defeat a legendary pet tamer. For grade details, please refer to related works. In the face of a half-step legendary pet tamer like Dragon King Amethyst, Qin Miao could only guarantee to barely escape. She really wondered how Su Bai had survived. Yes. Su Bai recounted the situation at that time. He did not hide details about his divine skill or the strength of his blood dragon. Anyway, Xiao Yulong and the others already knew about it, so it was useless to hide it. Instead, he told Qin Miao so that she could feel more at ease, which would in turn be more convenient for himself. After listening to Su Bai's story, Qin Miao was speechless for a long time. No wonder the Grandmaster had been so optimistic about Su Bai at the beginning. The effect of this divine skill was too nature-defying, and the ancestor blood dragon was a perfect match. After drinking several sips of tea, Qin Miao finally calmed herself down. Okay, I understand now. I'll warn the Xiao family and ask them to pay compensation. We have to show the strongest attitude and let them know our firm stand on this. Then I'll have to trouble you. Su Bai nodded in thanks. He had sought the dean exactly because of this. Since he had joined Yulong Gymnasium, he naturally had to use the resources here to scare off those who thought that they could bully the small. Don't mention it. By the way, I replaced your prior house with a single villa. This is the key to your new place. Qin Miao shook her head and took out a bunch of keys from the drawer. Thank you, Dean. I'll take my leave now, then. Su Bai took the key, drank the tea, and got up to leave. Qin Miao watched him leave and sighed. She originally wanted to warn Su Bai to be careful and watch out for the challenges of those core disciples, but now she only hoped that the core disciples could be more perceptive, or else they would end up in a miserable state. After coming out of the dean's office, Su Bai saw a few disciples coming up and stopping in front of him. He was very familiar with the person leading the way. It was He Yu, who had lost to him at the beginning. She had been the domineering senior sister of the gymnasium before his arrival. Senior brother, I think that your allocation of task resources is unreasonable. Those of us who are elite disciples with pureblood dragon pets and subdragon pets are the future of the gymnasium, but you assigned good tasks to those ordinary disciples without even subdragons. It's unreasonable and unfair. The lady looked at him and spoke in a deep voice. What's unfair? Su Bai looked at her, puzzled. Although I'm the senior brother, I can only mobilize half of the resources and control half of the tasks. If you want to obtain resources, you can complete the remaining half of the task. How is that possible? There are only a few tasks that we can take, and most of the gains are in your hands, another young man called Yangshan murmured. You used to exclude ordinary disciples in this way, didn't you? Why, you can't stand it now? Su Bai shrugged. The miserable ones in this gymnasium were those ordinary disciples who got excluded from the inner circle and could not take up leadership positions at all. The tasks they took were all ordinary with few resources, while the good ones were taken by the elite disciples in advance. Some ordinary disciples were actually not inferior to elite disciples in terms of strength and only lacked pets with dragon bloodline. Because this was the tradition of the gymnasium, Yulong Gymnasium took dragon pets as the standard. What he was doing now was in line with the tradition of the gymnasium. The senior brother could control half of the task allocation, which was one of the resources given to any senior brother of the gymnasium to form a team. In general, elite and core disciples who had high-level dragon pets would also be selected by the senior brother as part of the team. It was only because Su Bai did not choose them that something different had happened. However, he was not to be blamed for this. When he first became the senior brother, these disciples with high-level dragon pets were too proud and did not even come to greet him, so he could only find ordinary disciples. Senior brother, we were too arrogant before, but now we're willing to recognize you and help you seize the position of curator. What do you think? Another young man named Lu Dao said, Senior brother, you must believe that we people have far more resources than Han Wei and Ouyang do. What do you think about cooperating with us? It's a win-win situation for you. You make it sound like you're quite a big shot, but I have yet to recognize your strength. Su Bai took his little finger to dig his ear and said, It's okay if you want me to recognize you. Just go and snatch back the resources the giant dragon division had taken from us. Not all are required, just 1/5 will do. How about it? Simple enough, right? Hearing these words, Lu Dao and the other people's expressions changed. They suddenly became gloomy and their words became conscientious. This is too difficult. You're useless if you don't dare to take back the things that you've lost yourself and only know how to be a tyrant at home. Su Bai glanced at Lu Dao and the others in disgust. He then turned and left. Hee. Senior brother, have you won back any resources for us then? Since you can't agree, we can only speak with force in accordance with the tradition. Yang Shan, Lu Dao, and the others stood up together and looked at him. I want to have a taste of our senior brother's great trick. Subai stopped, slowly turned his head, and glanced at Lu Dao and others. He then turned back to He Yu and asked, "You want to challenge me, too?" The lady hesitated for a moment before she finally nodded and said, "Yes, but if I lose, I'm willing to take back the resources that belong to our gymnasium. In the future, I'll take you, senior brother, as my only guide." "Okay, then. See you at the training ground tomorrow morning." Subai nodded, knowing that he could not prevent this confrontation from happening. He turned around and left eagerly. "Forget it. Our senior brother is in a hurry to see his girlfriend." Ouyang smiled while looking at Subai's back. "I can see that he's really a good man who cares a lot about his family." Han Wei nodded. "It's a pity that he ran out too fast. I wanted to tell him that there'll be a new disciple selection in a few days. Both God Dragon and Giant Dragon must participate. Recruiting new disciples is the top priority every year." Ouyang sighed as he said this. However, Subai had already run out long ago. He summoned Planet Eye after leaving the gym, flew directly to East City, and finally arrived at Hope Community. No one is home. He found that the door was locked, and after going in, the house was neat and tidy as if it had been unoccupied for a long time. He paused for a while and then dialed Chen Ruoshua's phone number. "Hey, babe, why are you calling?" After a while, a familiar voice sounded on the phone. "I'm back, babe. Where are you?" "I want to see you," Subai said with a smile. "Ah, you're back. Wait for me, I'll be there soon." When Chen Ruoshua heard the news that her boyfriend had returned, she cried in surprise and immediately ended the call. Subai reluctantly put away the phone, took out food, and fed his pets. He also sent a message to senior sister Li Shui, saying that he wanted to use his spot in the Imperial Beast Gymnasium to send his 3 pets over and study there for a period of time. Just as he sent this message out, there was a knock at the door. When he walked over and opened the door, a fragrant wind brushed past him, and he felt a tender body embrace him, which he held on to tightly. "I missed you so much, you're too cruel to me. You left me alone for an entire year. Do you know how I spent my year? I even wondered many times if you didn't want me anymore." While embracing him, Chen Ruoshua began to speak incoherently. Subai closed the door and patted his girlfriend's back gently. "I'm sorry, babe. I didn't expect to be away for so long, too many things happened in the middle. Stop talking and just kiss me." Chen Ruoshua closed her eyes, which flowed like autumn water. Subai kissed and hugged his girlfriend tightly. Upon meeting each other under the golden evening wind and pure white dew, they shared an experience that others would never understand. It took half an hour before the two ended the kiss, panting heavily and rearranging their clothes for each other. "Take me with you when you go somewhere far. I don't want anything else, I just want you," she took his hand and exclaimed. "Okay, I promise you." Subai nodded lightly. Since he now had a certain degree of self-protection, it was not a problem to bring Chen Ruoshua along. Furthermore, Chen Ruoshua was not weak herself and was a good support for him, so she would not pull his leg. "Don't think that I'm a burden. 4 of my pets have reached the peak high-level monarch grade this year, whereas the other 3 newly acquired pets have also reached the high-level monarch. I'm now competing for the position as a chief disciple of Fuyao Gymnasium's Imperial Dragon Division. Once I succeed, I'll have the place to enter the Dragon Pond. By then, the black and white twin dragons should be promoted to the Emperor level," Chen Ruoshua said with her head held high and her chest out. This year, because Subai was absent, she had focused all her thoughts on improving her strength. Coupled with the full help of Mistress Wei Ya, her speed of improvement was faster than that of Subai. However, in terms of strength, she was naturally a little inferior to Subai. "You're amazing." He praised her generously. "Do you want me to help you?" "No, I have confidence." Chen Ruoshua shook her head. "All right, then." Subai nodded. "Are you hungry? I'll cook for you," she took his hand and asked. "I'm not very hungry. Let's take out some fruits and snacks, and chat while eating." He shook his head and refused. "Okay, it just so happens that I want to chat with you, too." Chen Ruoshua smiled gently. After ordering takeout, she got up and took out the tea set to make tea. At this time, because of her pet's backfeeding, her appearance and figure were comparable to those of a goddess. Although she wore loose clothes today, her graceful figure still could not be hidden. While drinking tea, the two shared their experiences over the past year. She marveled at the dangers of Abyss Star territory and his narrow escape from death. Meanwhile, he was impressed with and moved by her efforts. At least, you had enough conscience to come back before my birthday. Chen Ruoxue snorted softly. It was just 1 week away from her 18th birthday. Of course, I prepared a birthday gift for you, but it's not ready yet. I'll definitely surprise you at that time, Su Bai said with a smile. Then I'll give you the gift I prepared for your birthday before on that day, too. She thought about it and suggested this. What gift? Can you give me a hint? He asked, feeling a little curious. No. Chen Ruoxue puffed up her cheeks. That day, Su Bai did not work on anything else. He spent the entire day glued beside his girlfriend, shopping and eating delicacies. Early the next morning, the two had to separate because they each had things to deal with. However, they were not too far away from each other. She was at Fuyao Gymnasium, while he was at Yulong Gymnasium. Both sides were on the edge of Heavenly Abyss and were standing across from each other. In the morning, Su Bai came to the training ground. He Yu, Lu Dao, and Yang Shan, along with many disciples who had not taken up any tasks, were all waiting there. When he arrived, Lu Dao and Yang Shan eagerly looked at him. He Yu nodded politely and said, "Senior brother, what do you think is more suitable for the battle?" "Should I make rules?" he asked. "Of course, you're the senior brother," He Yu nodded and said. Yang Shan and Lu Dao wanted to say something, but they still gave up. "Okay, I'll set the rules. It's meaningless to fight here, and it'll set a bad example for the disciples. It just so happens that the Abyss monsters have gathered. Let's see who kills more monsters. As your senior brother, the three of you are counted as a team and I'll be counted as a team by myself, so don't complain that I'm bullying you," Su Bai said. "Senior brother is worthy of being the senior brother." "It's settled then." Yang Shan took the lead to speak at this time. The other disciples on the side nodded involuntarily, feeling that Su Bai was indeed worthy of being the senior brother. Although he did not appear often, he still took care of the overall situation. For a while, they formed a favorable impression of him and became curious about what the results of the battle would be. He Yu, Yang Shan, and Lu Dao were all well-known disciples in the gymnasium and had more than one emperor pet in their possession. Especially He Yu, she was publicly recognized as the person with the greatest strength in the gym and even had a peak high-level emperor pet. As for their senior brother Su Bai, his strength was extremely mysterious. Everyone recognized him because he had an ancestor blood dragon at hand and because he had entered Abyss Star territory at the bottom of Heavenly Abyss and had returned alive after a year. Coupled with his relaxed expression and fearless attitude, the disciples were curious about what the result of this competition would be. "All right, then, let's begin. You are all probably prepared, so let's start right away," Su Bai said. As he walked away, many disciples of the gymnasium and even some elders set off with him. Obviously, everyone was looking forward to the result of this match. Chapter 247. Shall we continue? The protagonists Su Bai, He Yu, Lu Dao, and Yang Shan were standing in the middle. "Is this 1 versus 3? A passerby asked. "Yes, that tall, handsome man in a black windbreaker with long hair is competing against the three of them. D*MN. It's kind of interesting, but I don't know who'll win. What do you think?" "We don't know. Let's just continue watching, it'll definitely open our horizons today." The disciples of Yulong Gymnasium did not have a one-sided view. They were all cautious in their words and deeds and did not express their opinions easily. It was mainly because both sides were stronger than them, and no one knew what else they were hiding. The most important thing was that this was related to the interests of the disciples. If they expressed clear opinions now, it would be equivalent to standing in line. What if they stood in the wrong line? Women were afraid of marrying the wrong men, and people were afraid of standing in the wrong team. "Dean Bai Chen, why are you here?" Somewhere in the Yulong Gymnasium, the head of God Dragon Division Qin Miao stood on top of a black dragon's head and looked at Bai Chen, the director of Giant Dragon Division, who was approaching in the distance. Bai Chen was an uncle with a mustache and his bangs covering half of his eyes, looking like he had experienced many vicissitudes of life. "Couldn't I come to see how the younger generation fights?" replied the middle-aged man with a smile. "Speaking of which, Qin Miao, who are you optimistic about? Don't talk as if we're very familiar. We're no longer on the same team now." She glanced at the middle-aged man and spoke with a sneer. "There's no need to hide that you're here to scout out the real situation. To tell you the truth, Su Bai definitely won't lose. The person I chose won't lose easily." Bai Chen was not annoyed and said with a smile, "Then I have to take a good look at him. I don't want to waste time. In 3 minutes, let's see who kills more monsters. How about we do the final calculation based on crystals?" Su Bai looked at He Yu. "Each crystal nucleus is counted as one, or is it calculated based on the level, with a warlord crystal nucleus being equal to 10 servants?" she asked. "It's naturally calculated according to the grade," he said with a smile. Su Bai then turned his head to look at the void and saluted. "Since the 2 deans are also here, I'll trouble these esteemed people to time us." As soon as his voice fell, the expressions of He Yu and the others changed. The deans were here. How did Su Bai discover it? To what extent was his strength? For a while, the 3 people, who were originally confident, all felt their heartbeats quicken. "Not bad. You actually discovered us. I'll help you time the battle." Bai Chen's figure appeared on the back of a huge golden dragon. At the same time, Qin Miao also revealed herself. D*MN. The 2 deans are really here, and Su Bai actually discovered the hidden Heavenly King-level Pet Tamers. Impressive. Most of the disciples were shocked by this. These 2 deans were both top-level Heavenly King Pet Tamers and were 1 step away from the legendary level. It was indeed remarkable for Su Bai to find their tracks. "Okay, everything is ready. I now announce the start of the match." Taking out a clock, Bai Chen projected it in the void and started the countdown timer. "You guys can make your moves first." Su Bai glanced at the 3 people. "Okay." The 3 stood on no courtesy and directly chose the next area where the monsters were denser and had relatively moderate levels. After flying over, the 3 of them gave it their best shot. Yang Shan and Lu Dao were still normal and only released 3 Emperor Pets and 4 Peak Monarch monsters. On the other hand, He Yu was much more terrifying. She directly released 7 Emperor Pets, including 2 Dragon Pets. Under her command, the 7 pets formed a destructive army around her. There was no way to stop them wherever they went. F***CK. When did senior sister He Yu have this level of strength? The 7 Emperor Pets are all carefully cultivated ones. They're too strong. She's too strong. Senior sister He Yu has really hidden herself too deeply. If senior brother Su Bai doesn't have any killer monsters, I'm afraid that he'll lose. The disciples broke out into discussions upon seeing these 7 Emperor Pets. This sight was too scary. He Yu was just too strong. Even the 2 deans above could not help but feel slightly surprised. It could be seen that He Yu's strength was indeed very powerful and terrifying. The most important thing was that she was only in her 20s, and there was still a lot of time in the future. Look, senior brother Su Bai has started to move, too. Soon, everyone's attention was focused on him. They watched as he stood on Planet I and walked directly to a more central position. In this area, the lowest grade were Monarch monsters, and Emperor monsters were everywhere. From time to time, some sovereign monsters would tear the space and show their shape. "Go ahead. It's up to you guys." Su Bai nodded at his pets. As soon as his voice fell, the cub and his other pets all rushed forward. Purple Jade turned into limitless beauty and waved its staff in hand. The ground within 3 kilometers shook, and then tens of thousands of green thorns and vines, which were as strong as towering old trees, grew out of the ground. The strength of these thorns and vines had reached the peak monarch grade, and ordinary emperor monsters could not destroy it. Furthermore, many plants, which originally grew at the bottom of the abyss, were also controlled by the elf. With the staff emitting a dark green light, these controlled plants instantly turned into moving puppets, rushing toward the surrounding monsters. These vine puppets constantly changed when they walked, turning into vines to attack their opponents from time to time as if they were really alive. The scene, where tens of thousands of thorn puppets were dispatched, was too shocking. In an instant, tens of thousands of monsters were killed. These vines were not only difficult to destroy but also poisonous. With the hypnotic powder, the vines could absorb vitality and spiritual power of those within their reach. This skill was simply too terrifying. The elf even unleashed various control skills like Grass Sword Storm, a generous amount of hypnotic powder, and so on. Although it could not hold on to such an efficient output for long, the elf was not afraid. This time, it was just a competition and it only had to persist for 3 minutes. On another end, Little Tyrant attacked in a much simpler and vicious way. It only performed one action. That was, it kept changing places and dropping blighted fireballs wherever it went. The moment it lifted its foot, dozens of mushroom clouds sprouted from its back foot. All the disciples looked at the situation and were terrified, deeply afraid that it would affect themselves. Meanwhile, the spectators could not understand the fox's actions at all. They only saw a huge black area formed out of thin air, and then a phantom of a huge nine-tailed magic fox walked forward aimlessly. Most of the attacks that hit it were directly reflected back. However, the area it walked through suddenly had more monster corpses. Subai's killer trump card was naturally the Ancestor Blood Dragon. Sadly, they did not see the imaginary scene of the Ancestor Blood Dragon unfolding its full body and domain to kill the surrounding monsters. The Blood Dragon flew out of Subai's wrist and turned into a length of more than 500 meters. It then stopped in mid-air, raised its right claw, and waved it. With every swipe, a bloody cross light flew out. The audience were not interested in it at first until they saw the flying bloody cross falling on the ground. They discovered that there were 2 terrifying space cracks over 5 kilometers in length. Anything cut, be it a monarch or an emperor, would all be halved and then turn into a bloody mist following a bang, leaving only a crystal nucleus suspended in midair. F***CK. Every claw has torn open the space. What the F***CK? Even consummate skills don't have such power. Oh, my god. D***MN. What did I see? Why is that action like Crush Claw? Every claw just cuts the space directly. The disciples and passers-by were boiling in discussions, and even the 3 people were stunned. This was too terrifying. Although the space here was relatively fragile, it also required the full strength of an emperor monster to tear it apart. Generally, only sovereign monsters could tear it apart with some effort. What did they see? A dragon with only a low-level emperor aura could tear a few kilometers of open space with every claw it swiped. It looked completely effortless, as if it were playing. F***CK. Was this even reasonable? It was unreasonable. Even Bai Chen, the director of Giant Dragon Division, who had always been known for his vicious insight, was puzzled. I can't figure out what level this kid's dragon is. No, the pets of this kid are very weird, and they all have terrifying powers that don't match their level. The Limitless Beauty, the Nine-Tailed Magic Fox, the Lava Killer, and that very weird Planet Eye. It's not mentioning his ancestor Blood Dragon. He has really found a monster that's too strong. Qin Miao was actually shocked by Subai's strength. Seeing him standing there, the young man seemed more and more mysterious. She knew that he had always liked hiding his strength, and he also had the Blood Moon Divine skill, which showed that his true strength was stronger than what he was showing right now. He had developed so much in just a year. Do you know who this abnormal person looks like? Asked Bai Chen suddenly. Who? Doesn't he look like the master who disappeared after establishing the Pet Alliance 100 years ago? Asked Bai Chen with a smile. On the other side, Subai took his pet dragon to hunt everywhere, but you and the others stopped directly and walked toward him. Why? You don't want to compete anymore? I haven't enjoyed it fully yet. He looked at the 3 and spoke with a smile. How did you do this? He looked at the dozens of unhealed space cracks at the bottom of the abyss and exhaled deeply. Yang Shan and Lu Dao also looked anxious, thinking that fortunately they had not insisted on fighting against this senior brother. Otherwise, they would be killed by the Ancestor Blood Dragon with one swipe of its claw. It's just a lift of my finger. Subai spread his hands. How strong is your true strength? The lady asked again without giving up. No comment on this. He shook his head. He stared at him for a long time but still could not do anything about this. Since we lost, we won't fight for the things before. I'll also fulfill the promises I made. She finally exhaled and nodded in resignation. Okay, then. Nodding, Subai kept his pets. I'm not targeting the elite disciples. I'll treat all those who are really willing to contribute to the construction of the gymnasium equally. I won't be merciful to those who betray us. After he finished speaking, he narrowed his eyes at Lu Dao and Yang Shan. The two only felt a sudden chill in their backs, and they quickly turned to walk away. The blood dragon exploded with spiritual power and gathered all the dead monster crystal nuclei together before swallowing them. Abyss Star territory is really so magical, it made him so much stronger. Before leaving, Hiyu begrudgingly gave this comment. You'd better not go because not everyone could come out of that place. Subai glanced at her, took his pets, and went back straight to Yulong Gymnasium. The disciples, who had witnessed this competition, were in a daze for a while, and the disciples of God Dragon Division were shocked that they suddenly had a senior brother who was stronger than the previous chief disciple. The disciples of Giant Dragon Division were shocked by Subai's strength and shaken as to the future candidate for the main position. In the past, Zi Wuji was tyrannical and invincible, and no one could perform any checks and balances. Now, it seemed that a new candidate had appeared. As for the passers-by, they were also shocked by the horror of Subai's strength. They uploaded the photos they had taken to the internet, making Subai's reputation become unrivaled for a while. The video of him dealing with Hiyu and the others in the competition at Heavenly Abyss had circulated on the internet. As soon as this video appeared, it directly attracted the attention of all pet tamers. It was really because it was too terrifying. Whether it was the elf or the fox, they were pets that had never appeared before and also had formidable strength. His peak commander pets had killed monarch monsters as if the deed was as simple as eating and drinking. It was simply too impressive. This was not mentioning the ancestor blood dragon, which had torn the space of Blue Planet with one crush claw. It was widely known that Blue Planet's space barriers were very stable and, generally, only sovereign monsters could tear them apart. Countless people analyzed and pondered over this, but still they could not figure it out. It felt too unreasonable, as if the young man had a plug-in. Ha ha ha. You're still my senior sister no matter how strong I become, Subai said with a smile. Me. What a sweet talker. Li Shui smiled and nodded. Let's go. I'll take you to the Imperial Beast Gymnasium. Okay. Thank you, senior sister. He smiled and nodded. With a snap of his fingers, he released Planet Eye. Your planet's core is quite special. Li Shui jumped up and pointed in a certain direction. Haha. Indeed. Senior sister, do you know where I can obtain data on weapon arsenal? Subai laughed and asked again. Arsenal? Weapons of science and technology? Li Shui asked, turning her head. Yes, technology. Such things are in the hands of the various countries and are used to equip their forces. The Alliance has them as well, just that they're estimated to be about 2 generations behind. If you want those, you can directly redeem them with contribution points from the Alliance. It shouldn't be a problem if you use your identity as the chief disciple of Yulong Gymnasium, she said. Okay, I understand. He nodded. Those weapons are not particularly useful, especially to those of us who already have Emperor pets. Our body strength can directly resist bullets without those weapons. Li Shui shook her head. I know this. Subai nodded. He wanted the data for Planet Eye to use and was also looking for other sorts of data. With the data and Planet Eye's wisdom and computing power, he could directly create them. It was even possible to introduce new innovations on this basis. Li Shui was right, though. Thermal weapons were indeed useless to pet tamers and were only useful in the early stages. As they were not particularly useful on top of the national blockade, no one wanted to waste time on developing such things. The general thermal weapons in the later stages, such as rockets, were like tickles to pet tamers. Furthermore, with the physical strength of summoners, they were no longer afraid of rockets. Their flying speed was too slow, and with the pet tamer's mental power, they could easily escape from any missile assaults. The other missiles were useless and could be discovered from a far distance. Nuclear bombs and hydrogen bombs, those terrifying weapons that could kill 1,000 enemies and injure 800, lost their effectiveness, for monsters above the Emperor grade could easily escape them. Senior sister, isn't the Imperial Beast Gymnasium in East Capital? How can we leave the city? Asked Su Bai, feeling suspicious. That's just the facade, its real location is in Heavenly Abyss, replied Li Shui with a smile. In Heavenly Abyss? How come I've never noticed it there? Su Bai wondered. Of course, you wouldn't. It's hidden in the Heavenly Abyss void. She revealed to him while smiling lightly. Soon after arriving at Heavenly Abyss, Li Shui took out a silver coin with the word Imperial Beast engraved on one side and a pattern of a round-faced fat chicken on the other side. She tossed the coin into the air and said, "Release a spiritual force." Planet I released a spiritual force, after which, a silver-white space door suddenly appeared out of thin air. Okay, go inside, said Li Shui. Planet I flew in. Su Bai then found himself in an unfamiliar void filled with grey mist. He could faintly see a few huge holes, and a lot of strong law fluctuations came from farther away, but these fluctuations had a kind of shocking feeling. This is. He was shocked and confused to see such a place on Blue Planet. This is called the Void Realm. It's a place farther outside the space barrier. It's easier to understand various laws in this place but also very dangerous to be here. Do you feel those horrible fluctuations? They are caused by some seniors fighting against mysterious monsters living in the void. It's to prevent them from passing through the Void Realm and from descending on Blue Planet itself. Li Shui told him in detail. Are there many monsters in this void? Asked Su Bai again. Of course, yes. Those monsters that can survive in such a terrifying place like the void are all low-level immortals. For some reason, they are very interested in Blue Planet. If those seniors had not stopped them, they would have come long ago. There are too many secrets inside, I don't know much, either. In any case, you just have to remember that the deeper in the void, the more terrifying the monsters. It's said that, in the deepest part of the void, there are super-large and super-old monsters of the world type. This world is really endless, people can't help but want to explore it. Li Shui sighed. Let's go to Imperial Beast Gymnasium. It's in that direction. This was also considered an eye-opener to Su Bai. The stronger he became, the more he discovered how big the world was and how small he was. However, he was still ecstatic. The boundless world meant that there was endless scenery to explore. Soon after passing through the grey objects, he saw a special island made of grey boulders. Why is this island also in the shape of a round-faced fat chicken? There are also the words Chicken Master engraved on it. Su Bai's eyes widened. That's because Imperial Beast Gymnasium was built by that senior Chicken Master. It's said to be one of the ultimate monsters in the void and is extremely terrifying. However, after the establishment of the gymnasium, it slipped away. Li Shui spread her hands. I see, he exclaimed. Big bosses really could do whatever their hearts desired. They soon arrived on the island, and Li Shui took him onto a special platform. Tens of thousands of various monster statues stood on the platform, densely packed together. Su Bai had never seen most of these monsters, but when he looked at their information, he found that they were all extremely powerful existences in the void. Let your pets unleash some spiritual power. If a senior takes a fancy to you, they'll directly take you away. If not, you can only go to the island to train for a month and then leave. It's a very rare opportunity to train on the island for a month, too. Generally, you can expect at least an improvement of 1 grade. Li Shui explained to him. I see. Jade, Mewling, Tyrant, it's all up to you guys now. He glanced down at his pets and chuckled. It just so happened that he would stay on Blue Planet for the next 6 months, so his pets could stay here to learn about the laws and some fighting skills. This was also his main purpose. If his pets were to be trained, no one would be able to beat him anymore. The prerequisites were that his pets had to comprehend laws and must have excellent mentors to guide them. Bye, I'll be back to protect you soon. Mule tilde same here tilde raw. While I'm away, remember to mature and be more vulgar. Otherwise, no one will take the bullet for you. All 3 of his pets looked at him, their eyes full of sadness. They had never been away from Su-bai ever since they were born. This would be the first time. Remember not to eat the potions I gave you all at once, alright? Su-bai exhorted again and then waved goodbye at the trio. The next moment, all three of his pets burst forth with spiritual power. As soon as the spiritual power erupted, hundreds of monster statues burst with spiritual power, too. However, before these statues could move, the elf and the other two had already been taken away by the three monster statues in the most central area. 3 silver coins were then thrown to Su-bai. Amazing. The seniors probably took fancy to them the moment you guys arrived. The senior in the middle is a peak immortal grade existence. Li Shui smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Nothing will happen to them, right? Su-bai asked, feeling a little worried. His heart felt empty now that the three had left. Don't worry. There's never been a problem so far, especially when it comes to those seniors. They were all selected by the founder of the gymnasium, Fat Chicken, so there shouldn't be any problem. She comforted him. I understand. Thank you, third sister. Haha. Let's leave. Put the 3 coins away, that's the proof that you can enter this place again. Su-bai glanced at the coins. The monster patterns on it were of the Purgatory Fire Lord, the Undead Tree of Thorns, and the Dark Lime. These were the monsters who had taken away his pets. Haha. I'll try my best to be the curator, then. He laughed. Okay, I'm leaving now. Remember to visit our master when you have time, the old man wants to see you. Li Shui summoned her light and dark bone mantis and got on its back. Okay, I understand. Don't worry. He nodded. After the woman left, he turned and went back to Yulong Gymnasium. Hello, senior brother. At the gate of the gymnasium, the disciple who was guarding the door greeted him respectfully, his attitude a stark contrast of his previous one. Hello. Su-bai nodded slightly in greetings. He understood that this was a change brought about by strength, and his terrifying strength made the disciples finally recognize him as their new senior brother. Hello, senior brother. Do you already have a girlfriend? When he entered the God-Dragon division, 2 female disciples stepped forward and greeted him, their eyes full of worship. Yes, I already have a girlfriend, he admitted frankly. Ah, it's such a pity. I wonder who's so lucky to be our senior brother's girlfriend. She must be very blessed. The 2 female disciples blushed. You'll have a chance to meet her next time, he said simply before walking forward again. Compared with the past, the disciples, male or female, were much more enthusiastic toward him. Their eyes were passionate and full of admiration. Many female disciples sneaked over to pass him love letters, some even confessed to him with blushing faces. Obviously, his performance in Heavenly Abyss had completely conquered these disciples, and they now felt that he was fitting to be their senior brother. He was young, handsome, invincible, steady, and gentle. In the past, although Su-bai had the ancestor blood dragon, his position had been forcefully arranged by the dean. Although everyone could not refuse at that time, they had not been convinced. However, it was different now. Su-bai had proven that his position as their senior brother was unshakable. In his new residence, Han Wei and Ouyang-du were already waiting for him. These are the letters you took. Su-bai looked at the 2 large baskets of letters on the table. They're all love letters handed over by female disciples. We only took about 1/10 of the ones handed over. Senior brother, may I ask how you want to deal with these? Ouyang-du smiled and inquired. His head was so shiny that it could reflect sunlight. Su-bai, don't accept any next time. Spread the word that I already have a girlfriend. He finally informed the 2 helplessly. Haha. We understand. Ouyang-du smiled and nodded. I already said that our senior brother wouldn't be tempted by these things, but you insisted on playing tricks, Han Wei said coldly. Hey, don't expose me. Ouyang-du was about to cry. Okay, let's talk business. Why did you call me here? Su-bai asked. Okay, the first and most important thing is the recruitment of new disciples that occur annually. This is presided over by the elder brothers of the 2 divisions. They screen our talented disciples from branches scattered all around the world and recruit them into the divisions. This is also a very important thing in the competition between the two divisions. Giant Dragon Division now has 10,000 more disciples compared to us. That's because, every time we screened disciples before, not many were willing to come to our God Dragon Division. Having few disciples is very detrimental to your future candidacy for the curator position. Han Wei explained this to him. I remember that a potential disciple must have at least a dragon pet that can light more than 4 knots on the dragon pillar, be under the age of 20, and have the strength to reach the elite Pet Tamer. Am I right? Su Bai thought for a while and asked. Yes, those are the minimum requirements. Only by meeting the criteria can they take part in the test and then pass it before being selected by our gym. Ouyang Du nodded. Those are the general requirements. If a candidate's dragon has a bloodline that reaches 6 knots, or even more than 6 knots, they can directly become a disciple without going through the assessment, Han Wei said again. Oh, I see. How many days are left before the recruitment for new disciples? Su Bai nodded and inquired about this. We still have half a month left, 21 days to be exact, said Han Wei. Okay, then. I'll give you two a secret mission that can't be known by others, he said after thinking about it. What mission? The young woman widened her eyes curiously. When he raised his hand, the blood dragon on his wrist formed a bloody enchantment and enveloped the 3 of them inside. Send absolutely trustworthy people to find disciples with dragon pets possessing impure bloodline at the major branches. They must have a clean background, good conduct, and the willingness to work hard. It doesn't matter if they are ordinary or outer disciples as long as they meet the requirements. After the selection, gather them all secretly in White Snow Town outside East Capital, where I secretly bought a manor covering an area of 50,000 fields. Settle them down there. You can notify me once everything's done. Su Bai looked at the 2 before him and gave these instructions seriously. The manor in White Snow Town was given to him by his master, Gaon. The elderly chairman said that the scenery there was very unique, but he had never been there. White Snow Manor? Yes, tidy up the place for me, too. These are the keys to the place. He summoned a black card from his storage bracelet. As his contract book had been upgraded to a mutated, diamond-level spiritual C, he could already release spiritual power and control the movement of items. How many disciples are you recruiting? Han Wei asked after taking the keys from him. Set stricter standards, and if necessary, use a specialized pet for the assessment. There's no limit to the number of people, just recruit as many as possible, Su Bai said after thinking about it. Okay, we understand. Han Wei and Ouyang Du nodded, a little shocked. They had a guess about what he was going to do. If it was really as they thought, it would be crazy. Okay. What else is there to discuss? Su Bai asked Little Blood Dragon to withdraw the enchantment. Oh, it's about that Nihility Koi you asked us to capture. Some disciples have already caught more than 1,000 of them, Han Wei said. Let them continue to catch and count them once a month. He waved his hand and said. Okay, I understand. The woman nodded. Anything else? I may be leaving East Capital in the following week, he said. The biggest concern now is how to get back the resources the Giant Dragon Division snatched from ours. Senior Sister Han Wei is really admirable. She has already done this again, but the Giant Dragon Division is powerful and the effect is not the same. Ouyang Du spread his hands. This matter is not urgent. Let's talk about it again in a month's time. Remember to let them look after the Nihility Koi, alright? Su Bai thought for a moment and then opened his mouth to say this. Okay, I understand. Ouyang Du stood up and nodded. Oh, by the way, let me check one more thing. How is the Hu family in the capital doing now? Focus on checking 2 people, Hu Lan and Hu Jie, Su Bai stood up and ordered. He had never forgotten Hu Jie and Hu Lan, his benefactors. Without their help, he would not have become this strong so fast. This was especially so with Hu Lan giving him the Purgatory Tyrant egg, which had hatched the Lava Killer, and helping him go through many dangers. Since he had the strength, he must pay back the debt. This was even more so with Teacher Hu had helped him greatly many times. However, he had been unable to help her, which had always made him feel very guilty. If the 2 people are in danger, just save them directly. You can pressure the opponents in the name of the gym, and if something happens, I'll take the blame. Although the Hu family was one of the 8 first-class families in the alliance, it was still second-tier compared to Yulong Gymnasium. In other words, the 5 top families could barely compete with the gymnasium. The roots of the top 10 pinnacle gymnasiums were not comparable to them. Hello, what do you want to exchange for? Asked a staff member in a black suit across the exchange window of the hunting hall. I want to check my contribution points. How many do I have? Su Bai handed the lady his Pet Tamer certificate as he inquired about this. Contribution points were calculated as 1 point for a servant monster, 10 points for a warlord monster, 100 for a commander monster, and then 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000. You now have a total of 77.32 million contribution points. The staff member could not help but feel surprised when she saw this. Having nearly 80 million contribution points was equal to killing 80,000 monarch monsters. What shocked her the most was that the time of Su Bai's registration as a pet tamer had only been 1 year. Even if he killed monarch monsters every day, he would still have to kill at least 200 monsters daily. In this way, there was only one possibility. His strength was far beyond the monarch level, and even killing the emperor monsters was as good as cutting melons and vegetables to him. In other words, he had grown to such a terrifying level despite having only become a professional pet tamer for a little over a year. This level of genius was really shocking. However, after discovering that this person was Su Bai, she was not so surprised. This was because he really killed emperor monsters as if he were cutting melons and vegetables. If she were not at work, she would even ask for his WeChat. She did not mind a relationship with a younger guy. Su Bai nodded. The number of points recorded in the book should be correct. Of these points, some were obtained by hunting monsters while the rest were rewarded by the Alliance for giving them information about the Abyss Star territory. I want to get the data of the weaponry of the Spirit Alliance. How many points do I need to exchange for that? He asked. Oh, you want to get the data of the Alliance's weaponry? The worker in a black uniform asked with some uncertainty. She did not know why he wanted to exchange for that sort of thing. Yes, that's right. Su Bai confirmed. Okay, I'll check it for you. After a quick query, she looked up and said, you need permission to redeem this. Is my status as the core disciple of Yulong Gymnasium not enough? Sorry, even with that identity, your level of authority is still not high enough. The staff member shook her head. I see. Thank you. I won't redeem it anymore then, he said before turning to leave. He originally did not want to trouble others, but he had no choice now. After thinking about it, he called the dean, Qin Miao. Why do you want that stuff? She asked curiously on the phone. I have a technology-type pet who has a high degree of computing power. If there's corresponding data, they can simulate such weapons. I feel that it's quite powerful, so I want to give that a try, replied Su Bai simply. Oh, a technology-type pet. Your pets are really weird. They are all extremely rare, too, Qin Miao said in surprise. Such pets were extremely rare in nature, and most of them were man-made. It was very rare to have a technology pet with high computing power. In fact, what he did not know was that the computing power of his planet iPet had already exceeded that of the most powerful intelligent creatures, human beings. It's very simple if you want to buy that, but since you asked me, I'll buy it directly for you. You can just transfer the points to me, said the female dean. Thank you, he expressed gratefully. After hanging up the phone, he entered a special carving shop near the pet center. This carving shop had been introduced by Zhu Lingen, who said that the workmanship was superb. Excuse me. What do you want us to carve? At the counter for drawing pictures stood a woman in black with her hair down. I want you to use this and make a set of couple jewelry. It should be something unique. Su Bai took out the origin amethyst, which was the size of a human head. As soon as this thing was taken out, heaven and earth's aura seemed to have been drawn to this place. It's origin amethyst. The black-clothed woman looked up at the head-sized amethyst in a daze. F***CK. It was too shocking. Origin amethyst was a legendary thing, something that could only be born in the origin of a planet. She had heard of it, but this was her first time seeing it in reality. Please come to the private room and we will talk in detail. Her attitude suddenly became very respectful. After entering the private room, she quickly poured a glass of water for Su Bai and said with a smile, "Hello, my name is Zhao Ya. May I have your surname?" "My surname is Bai. I was introduced by Zhu Lingen." He took the tea and put it on the table. "Oh, so Xiaoan introduced you. You're Su Bai, the chief disciple of Yulong Gymnasium's God-Dragon division. Am I right?" Zhao Ya came to a sudden realization. "Yes, that's right." He nodded. "You can be rest assured that, since Xiaoan referred you to us, I'll definitely do my best. Still, are you really going to have this origin amethyst carved?" Zhao Ya nodded quickly and asked. As expected, someone who could take out this treasure was certainly not an ordinary person. This thing was too precious, especially for pet tamers. A small piece could be sold for several $100 million. This was not mentioning such a big size. It was truly priceless. "Yes, I want to make a unique set of couple jewelry, and I need it within 7 days. The cost is not a problem. Do you think that it can be done?" Su Bai nodded. "I see. 7 days is quite a rush, but the carving can be done. It mainly depends on the design. I can leave the carving to my pets and just need to refine it. If you want to do it all by hand, then 7 days is really not enough." She nodded slowly and explained this to the young man before her. "It's no problem. Do you have any design plans for me to look at?" Su Bai nodded and asked. He returned a little late, or else he would want to do the carving himself by studying first. The woman thought for a while and then slowly said, "Have you heard of a special monster called Eternal Love?" "Eternal Love? You mean the legendary eternal love that exists in the void?" His volume suddenly rose. Eternal Love was a special kind of energy creature that existed in the void. It always appeared in pairs. One was immortal and the other was a special super-energy monster that could be resurrected even if it died. The most amazing thing was that, if a couple in love made a wish from them and was truly in love with each other, the wish would be successful. Eternal Love would then be transformed into an entity to form 2 distinctive pendants. The 2 parties who owned the pendant could always feel the existence of each other. Although they did not have any ability to communicate, they could feel the existence of the other, having hearts that beat as one. Su Bai had always wanted to catch that thing and decided to do so later. If he went out now, he might accidentally miss Chen Ruoshue's birthday. That thing was also very rare, and he was not hopeful to find it, so it would only depend on fate. "Yes, I have a pair here, but you know that Eternal Love tests true love. Although people like Eternal very much, I don't dare to try it because, if the love isn't genuine, that pair won't respond," Zhao Ya said with a smile. Her meaning was very obvious. In this impetuous society, true love was too difficult to find. If the young man's feelings were shallow, then it was best not to use that creature, or else it would be too embarrassing. "Give me a price," Su Bai asked directly without hesitation. "If you really want eternal love, I can actually give the pair to you and help you make another set of couple jewelry for free, leaving only the pendant for you to make a wish with eternal love. After all, the more precious the materials used when making a wish, the more precious the eternal pendant is. As for the price, I just want to ask you to do one thing for me." She looked at the young man and said solemnly. "What is it?" Su Bai did not agree straight away. "You see, my son is 17 years old this year, and he is a disciple of East Capital's Yulong Gymnasium. He wants to be a powerful dragon summoner, but his pet's evolution encountered some problems. Right now, his dragon can't reach the screening requirements of the gym, so I want to ask for your help in that," Zhao Ya said slowly. It was hard to find a good dragon pet outside, and even she could not provide more help to her son. She had asked Zhu Lingen for help before and had definitely been very excited when Su Bai was introduced to her. "This is not a problem for me. I agree. Give me your son's information. If his behavior is satisfactory, I can help him improve the bloodline of his dragon pet. If his behavior is bad, then I'll at most help him enter Yulong Gymnasium, but I won't provide any help afterward," he said straightforwardly. "Don't worry. Although he grew up in East Capital, he's not a frivolous person. I will give you his information later." Zhao Ya quickly nodded. "It's settled then. I can come back and pick the items up in 6 days. Subai pointed to origin amethyst on the table and said. 5 days. You can take it after 5 days. I don't need so much amethyst, so 1/5 is enough. Zhao Wei shook her head. I will leave you 1/4. Don't cherish the materials. If you can make it bigger, just make it a little bigger. Subai directly let the dragon coiled around his wrist cut the amethyst into 4 parts. He was not doing this entirely just for the sake of jewelry. The origin amethyst could not only support people but was also a trump card to use at the critical moment. For example, when fighting with people, the pet's aura would be exhausted. Chen Ruoxue only had to pull out an earring made of amethyst and feed it to the pet, and its aura would be instantly saturated. Okay, I'll write up a receipt for you. You can pick it up in 5 days. Zhao Wei nodded helplessly, admiring Subai's wealth. At the same time, she wondered which girl had such a big blessing. Ah, my dear. Why did you wake up so early? It's still early. Subai yawned and put his arm around her again. Didn't you say you want to go out to play? I have to put on my makeup. She groaned. What kind of makeup, dear? Just go to bed. You're already beautiful. In fact, to me, you're the most beautiful woman in the world without makeup. He looked at her and spoke with a smile. No, I want to put on makeup. You also get up quickly, help me draw my eyebrows in a while. Amused by his words, she dragged him up from the bed. Okay. My wife has the final say. Subai got up. After washing up, he sat next to Chen Ruoxue and watched her put on makeup. He released a clone of Planet Eye and let it shoot and record her. You're being very patient today. She combed her hair and started applying cosmetics. Usually, this man would be lazing in bed, waiting for her to finish dolling up before he got up. I suddenly think that watching you put on makeup is also a very interesting thing. Subai smiled. In fact, Chen Ruoxue had no use for makeup at all. Her face was exquisite like the best-looking Hatian jade, and she also had rosy cheeks, without any blemishes. The bridge of her nose was straight. Her red lips were beautiful and tender, and her big black eyes were bright and beautiful. They shone like bright stars, as bright and moving as the ripples of autumn water. After receiving her pet's backfeeding, she exuded a quick-witted, fairy-like aura from the inside out. Such an appearance did not require makeup at all. In fact, she did not put on heavy makeup. Instead, she only drew a little eyeshadow and trimmed her eyebrows, trying to make herself look more beautiful and charming. Because she was going out to play, she did not wear a skirt. She put on a simple white strapless suspender and short sleeves as well as looser and cool bell-bottom pants. With a pair of small white shoes, her dressing was rather casual. How do I look? She spun around in front of Subai. It could be seen that she had trimmed her hair before, with her stray strands on her forehead and her long, fine black hair scattered across her shoulders. Her entire person resembled a fairy descending to the world, exuding a charming temperament. She looked confident and youthful. With one glance, you can upset a town, and with another glance, a whole state will tumble down. Subai chuckled. Chen Ruoxue smiled triumphantly upon hearing the compliment and pulled his hand. Let's go. Be careful that I don't spend all your money today. I still have 70 million contribution points. You can spend however you want, he said with a smile. He had not shopped with her for a long time because he had gone to Abyss Star territory. Although he did not have much money, he had a lot of contribution points, which now had a purchasing power of 1,000 yuan. It did not matter where it was as the points were universal. In other words, he now had more than 70 billion in cash alone, which did not even include the various treasures he owned. Since you said that, then I'll spend as I wish. Chen Ruoxue smiled slyly. She had not shopped at all while Subai was away and had devoted herself to the improvement of her strength. She was also competing for the position of Fuyao Gymnasium and Imperial Dragon Academy's chief disciple. Today, the two agreed to play in East Capital. They went to a very high-end, 5-star restaurant for breakfast and to a cinema to watch a movie. How come we're the only ones here? Asked Chen Ruoxue curiously when she walked into the theater. Did you book the entire place? She was surprised at this realization. Yes, I did. No one will bother us this way. Subai grinned and shrugged. He was afraid of accidentally encountering some ill-mannered people who would make loud noises during the movie, so he had booked the entire cinema. It had cost tens of thousands of yuan, which was not much different from a yuan for him today. You can really be willful when you have money. Chen Ruoxue rolled her eyes. I'm happy to spend money for you. Subai spread his hands. The two happily watched a movie in the cinema without any interruptions, and the viewing experience rose to many levels. It was noon by the time they were done watching movies. The weather outside was very hot, so the two chose to go shopping. They went on a shopping spree, buying a bunch of things at various high-end shopping malls and storing them in their storage spaces. In the afternoon, the two went to several famous scenic spots and a theme park in East Capital. As the setting sun set, the fiery red sun dyed the clouds on the west side red. The red clouds looked extremely beautiful. The sky, on the other side, was pure and flawless and blue as the ocean. Occasionally, a few snow-white clouds dotted the area. In contrast, the red clouds on the west side outlined a beautiful flower roll. The carousel in the amusement park turned slowly, and the shadow was drawn long by the slanting sunset. Upon a closer look, two figures were cuddled together in the shadow of the merry-go-round. These two were naturally Chen Ruoxue and Subai. She was sitting on the merry-go-round, holding the pole in her hand, and leaning against his arms. He took advantage of the situation and hugged her slender and soft waist. At this time, in the theme park, it was very quiet. Except for a few staff here and there, only the couple was present. I'm so happy today. This has been the second happiest time in my life ever since I was born. Chen Ruoxue smiled. Then what's the first happiest moment in your life? Asked Subai curiously. Being with you. She giggled charmingly. You're really good with your words. I feel so touched. He could not help but smile. I'm telling the truth. She emphasized. I am, too. He also emphasized. Chen Ruoxue leaned against him, looking at the sunset with a sweet smile on her face. What gift did you prepare for me? After a long time, when the sun was setting, she raised her head and asked this question curiously. You'll know when we get home. Subai smiled mysteriously. What about my gift? He asked rhetorically. It's a secret for now. Chen Ruoxue also showed a mysterious smile. All right, then. When shall we go back? He glanced at her. Now. I want to see my gift. She raised her chin. Okay, let's go back. He nodded. It was getting late in any case. Subai summoned his contract book and released Planet I. He then helped his girlfriend onto it. Your pet is not bad. Chen Ruoxue laughed while looking at the scenery of East Capital. It's more than just not bad. You'll understand its power when you get the chance. Subai said with a smile. I'm looking forward to it then. She batted her eyes. Soon, the two returned home. She opened the door and could not help but exclaim, Wow! Did you find someone to arrange this? The living room seemed to have been rearranged as it now was brimming with the intense atmosphere of festivity. There was a big birthday cake on the table and a congratulatory message written on the wall, along with pictures of Subai and Chen Ruoxue. Happy 18th birthday, my little fairy. Subai took out a large bunch of red roses from the cupboard and handed them to Chen Ruoxue with a gentle smile on his face. Thank you. Dumbfounded, she took the flowers and hugged him. After closing the door, the two came to the table with the birthday cake. Subai took out an exquisite gift box from the side and looked at her. My dear, do you want to see the birthday present first or do you want to make a wish and eat the cake first? I want to look at the gift first. She smiled and nodded toward the gift, very curious about what it was. Okay, you can open it. He put the gift box down in front of her. Full of curiosity, she slowly opened the gift box and could not help but feel stunned. This looks too beautiful. Is this made with the legendary origin amethyst? This pendant. Is this the legendary eternal love? She recognized this thing and instantly understood its preciousness. Only a few such existences could be born in the origin of a planet. To obtain it, a planet must be destroyed. This set of jewelry made by the origin amethyst was already the most precious thing in the world. Coupled with eternal love, They were absolutely priceless. "This is too precious," she could not help exclaiming. Subai smiled softly, full of tenderness. "No matter how precious it is, you're still more precious to me." Chen Ruoxue smiled sweetly upon hearing this. This guy usually did not speak much sweet nothings, but he was suddenly such a sweet talker. Thinking about this, she revealed a sly smile. "Aren't you afraid that we're not truly in love, and there wouldn't be an effect on eternal love?" "No, if eternal love doesn't work, then it's definitely fake. There can't possibly be any problem between us." He shook his head. Wow. She was stunned. This guy was too good at his sweet talk today. Every sentence touched her heart. "Okay, let's verify it." Chen Ruoxue took out one of the pendants and put it on his neck, while she hung the other on herself. This pendant was very hard work. Especially the diamond-shaped amethyst which stored eternal love in the middle, it was even more beautiful and charming. Under the faint light, eternal love exuded a dazzling purple light, just like a bright star in the sky. "Let's make a wish." The two held the pendants at the same time, closed their eyes, and made a wish. After a short while, 2 rays of light emitted from the pendant. When they were connected, they flashed a dazzling light, and for a while, the entire room was illuminated as if it were daytime. The more the light shone, the more important the two people were to each other. This light also showed that the two were number one in each other's heart and were more important than their lives. When the light dissipated, the two opened their eyes to look at the diamond pendant in their hands. Eternal love had disappeared, replaced by several exquisite and mysterious patterns on the pendant. Upon closer inspection at the center of the pendant, they saw the statue of a little angel. This statue was very small and was invisible to ordinary people. However, the pair's superior eyesight could naturally see it. The angel statue in her pendant was of Subai's face. The angel statue in his pendant was of Chen Ruoxue's face. "It seems like eternal love is real." He nodded in satisfaction. She glared at him and then smiled sweetly again. "Help me put it on." "Okay." Subai came over with her earrings, rings, and bracelet. After putting it on, he could not help but feel very stunned. At this time, Chen Ruoxue had an unprecedentedly unique temperament and aura of grandeur. With this pair of jewelry, she looked a little more noble and elegant, which made him quite dazzled. "How is it? Does it look good?" Chen Ruoxue deliberately moved closer and batted her eyes. "It looks so beautiful on you. Don't take it off anymore. It looks good and is also useful in battles. In case the pet's aura is exhausted and a crisis comes, just feed it with an earring, and its aura will be full in an instant." Subai nodded fiercely and said, "Hee. I'll take it with me from now on." Chen Ruoxue's eyes lit up, feeling that his words were very reasonable. She then brought him the matching couple ring. He also had a set of men's earrings, but he did not wear them. "Here. I'll give you one more piece. This is a good trump card, or else it can help your pet's breakthrough, too. Don't worry. I still have a lot in my hands." He handed her a fist-size origin amethyst. "Okay, then, but did you really destroy a planet for me?" Chen Ruoxue took the origin amethyst and asked. "Don't worry. This was obtained from a lifeless and dying planet. There are no living planets in the Abyss Star territory." Subai spread his hands and explained. "That's good." She nodded and did not feel guilt in her heart any longer. "Come to make a wish and blow the candles. We can eat the cake soon." He opened the little cake on the table. The cake was 3-tier but was not big because there were only 2 of them eating. "Will you sing a birthday song for me?" requested Chen Ruoxue with a smile. "Of course, I will, but I'm tone deaf," replied Subai with a smile. After lighting the candle, she made a wish and blew out the candle in one breath. He tried his best to sing a birthday song which was not so out of tune. She kissed him with tenderness in her eyes. "Thank you. Let's eat the cake." "Okay." He nodded and started to cut the cake. After eating the cake, he brought candles and red wine again. The dishes were bought from a 5-star hotel. "By the way, where's my birthday present?" he asked with a smile while eating. "Let me tell you later." She smiled mysteriously. Subai could not help being more curious and also had a vague guess in his heart. However, after eating, Chen Ruoxue seemed to have forgotten about it. He packed his things and said, "Let's wash up and go to bed. We've been out for a day today. I'm quite tired." After taking a shower, he lay in bed and played with his mobile phone. Not long after, she came out of the bathroom, but instead of a bathrobe, she was wearing a black canary cheongsam. In a moment, Su Bai's cell phone fell to the bed with a thump. His eyes turned dull as he stared at her. At this time, Chen Ruoxue seemed to have walked out of a painting, and there was a hint of ultimate charm in her antique fragrance. The black canary cheongsam perfectly outlined her curvy figure, and her slender waist made her figure more voluptuous. Be it her 36D big breasts or her angelic face, he could not avert his eyes away. The hem of her cheongsam was very short, and her snow-white lotus root arms and long legs were exposed to the air, forming a thrilling contrast with the color of the cheongsam. Further down, her slender jade-like legs were covered with a pair of black silk stockings, leaving a white area between the cheongsam and the hem of the cheongsam. Her hair was ponytailed, her angelic face was flushed with heat, and her feet had black high heels on. The elegance and nobility she exuded revealed a fatal temptation, which could not be concealed. All these made Su Bai dazed for a while. Chen Ruoxue walked to him with blushing cheeks and spun around gently. She asked with a shy smile, "Do I look good?" "Yes, you look amazing." Su Bai sat up, stared at her intently, and swallowed his saliva. She looked utterly breathtaking. He had never thought that she had such an amazing side. "Tonight, I'll be your birthday present." Tilda, she blushed and whispered inside his ear. At this moment, he only felt that the door to a new world had opened. He put his arms around her and kissed her beautiful red lips. Small scene. Many years later, Su Bai recalled that special battle. It was truly earth-shattering and extremely tragic. It was a tragic fight with a person whose face he could not see, and the strength of this opponent was extremely terrifying. The two of them cursed and fought fiercely. The sky was dark for a while, and the collision of the curses seemed to have the ability to tear the void. Although he had the upper hand, he failed to win against the opponent, but he reacted quickly and took advantage of the situation. He turned his fist into a palm and attacked the opponent. Unexpectedly, the other party's reaction was not slow, and he managed to avoid the attack. The palm attack hit the towering peaks, which were ravaged by his horrible palm as if an earthquake had just occurred. With his failed move, Su Bai pressed on step by step with his deadly palm. While attacking without his helmet and armor, he also smashed the green and red patches, turning them unrecognizable. What shocked Su Bai was that, even though the opponent's helmet and armor had been destroyed, he still did not suffer much damage. At this point, he summoned the long slaying sword in his hand without hesitation. The first time experiencing this was extremely addictive. Now that he recalled the battle last night, he could not help himself again. Dream on. Get up quickly. Chen Ruoxue, who had been awake a long time ago, found that something was wrong and quickly pushed Su Bai away. He hugged her tightly and stared into her eyes, trying to subdue her. "My dear, can we do the deed 2 days from now? My leg hurts." She glanced pitifully at him and begged for mercy. Even if her body received backfeeding from her pets and was far more comparable to humans, it would definitely hurt during her first time. "All right. Where do you want to go to play today?" Su Bai tried his best to suppress his impulse and asked softly. He could not be blamed. Since the two of them had trusted each other fully, it was better to avoid any minor incidents, which might spark off something bigger. "I don't want to go anywhere. My legs hurt. I just want to sleep." Chen Ruoxue blushed and rolled her eyes. If he had not been too crazy during the fight last night, her legs would not have hurt so much now. "I'm sorry." Recalling all the things that happened last night, Su Bai suddenly felt embarrassed. He could not help it. She was just too tempting, and he could not resist being wild. She turned around, thinking about everything silently. "Why don't we get the certificate when we go back during the Chinese New Year?" He hugged her and suggested. "Do you want to marry me so badly?" Chen Ruoxue could not help but smile. Both of them were 18 years old now and had fully met the legal requirements. The maturity speed of pet tamers were not comparable to that of ordinary humans, and the situation was naturally different. Of course, this has been my dream all along. Subai smiled. He was telling the truth. It was one of his dreams to enter the wedding hall with this woman in his arms. Actually, if you want to, we can go back to get the certificate now. She caressed his face and spoke softly. She was undoubtedly very willing as well. They could hold off the wedding ceremony and just obtain the certificate first. This way, there would be a sense of ritual. Aren't you going to run for the chief disciple position? It's not good to be too far away from Fuyao Gymnasium. Subai held her hand. Okay, let's do it after the new year. Chen Ruoxue blinked and burrowed herself into his embrace. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The two who had eaten the forbidden fruit for the first time slowly returned to normal. I'll go back to see my parents and take care of some things. I'll be back in 2 or 3 days. Subai smiled. Are you going to the monster wilderness formed in the Blood Moon world? Be careful. Chen Ruoxue tidied the neckline of her clothes and looked at him. Don't worry. I'm a person with a family now, so I'll make sure to cherish myself very well, he smiled, adding, but you really don't need me to help you. It'll be very difficult to become the chief disciple of Imperial Dragon Academy without support. Don't worry, just remember to come back soon. Chen Ruoxue rolled her eyes. Okay, I'm leaving then, my wife. Subai waved his hand, opened the door, and left. Although the two wanted to stay together all the time, they had a lot of things to deal with. It was already rare for them to indulge in each other's company for 3 whole days. After leaving the house, Subai released Planet Eye and flew straight toward Cannes. He would go see his parents and then visit his master, Gaon. Finally, he would leave to explore the Blood Moon's secret realm. He then would come back to prepare for the assessment of the recruitment of new disciples and other miscellaneous things. Roar! Arbai, how do you think Sister Jade and the others are doing? Asked Little Blood Dragon. After the 3 pets left, Subai was left with the dragon, Planet Eye, and the kraken. They're probably not doing well, but their strength is steadily improving, he said with a smile. A few days ago, Little Tyrant contacted him telepathically that it wanted to come back. The monsters over there were abusing it, making it move hundreds of thousands of catties and millions of catties of asteroids while it ran around. They had even thrown it into the extreme cold water. Subai responded by saying that, if it had the ability, it should run back by itself. Little Tyrant had angrily rebuked him, claiming that he must have new pets outside and did not love it anymore. Thinking about it now, Subai could not help but laugh. The dino was really interesting. Roar. They must be missing you. Upon hearing about their specific situation, the blood dragon could not help but exclaim. Planet Eye flew very quickly, so he arrived at Cannes in about 2 hours. Upon his arrival, he went to the Cannes Juvenile Team Club first to withdraw his membership. He had joined Yulong Gymnasium, so his spot in the club was useless. It was better to leave the place to those who needed it. Who are you looking for? The club's guard stopped him. More than a year had passed, and Subai's appearance had changed greatly. His youthfulness had long faded, his temperament becoming calm yet bright. His brows even revealed confidence and freedom now. I'm Subai. I came here to attend to some business. He took out his club ID, swiped it, and walked in. Subai. The guard pondered over the name and suddenly raised his head in exclamation. Could he be that national champion who was admitted to Heavenly Abyss University? That Subai who is now a core disciple in Yulong Gymnasium, one of the top 10 peak gymnasiums on Blue Planet. At this point, the 2 guards hurriedly took out their mobile phones to check. Indeed, Subai's appearance was the same. D*MN, it's really Subai. I actually saw the true face of this great god, the guard said in shock. I regretted not asking for a signature. We could have made it big, the other door guard also said bitterly. Subai was the glory of everyone in Cannes, and almost everyone worshipped him. Roar. Look, you're already worshipped by thousands of people, Little Blood Dragon said. Haha. It does feel pretty good. Subai chuckled, thinking that he had also idolized those super geniuses whom others often talked about. Now that it was his turn, apart from feeling a sense of accomplishment, he did not feel much fluctuation in his heart. The club had expanded a lot, probably because he had won first place in the national competition and brought the club money. Before he walked into the office, Subai knocked on the door. "Come in." A familiar voice came from the door. It was Tang Long's voice. "Hey, why are you two here? How have you guys been?" He entered the room and saw the twin sisters Li Xing and Li Hai. These two sisters were now slim and elegant. Their bulging breasts and long white legs were particularly eye-catching. "Wow, it's Subai. Why did you come back?" Seeing him, the two were stunned for a moment and then they all asked in shock. They had no idea that he would suddenly appear here. "Subai, when did you come back?" Tang Long and Yu Lingyu also stood up, surprised to see him. It stood to reason that they should be in college. "We're here to withdraw our membership, are you not?" The two sisters widened their eyes at him. They would see him every day nowadays but only on their mobile phones. Subai was too dazzling, like a bright star in the sky, at present, be it in a video posted online of him killing an emperor monster like cutting vegetables or his unattainable status as Yulong Gymnasium's chief disciple. Now that he had suddenly appeared in front of them, it was really hard to believe. Looking closely, they found that Subai was more handsome than the video they saw, but his aura was still peaceful, and he did not speak condescendingly to them. In fact, he did not change much from that year. Both of them used to like him, but now they did not have any intentions, for they knew that they could not compare with Chen Ruoxue. How could morning dew compete with the morning sun? "Yes, I'm too busy to play competitions at the club, so I'll simply retire and give up my position to others," said Subai with a smile. Hearing this, Tang Long could not help but laugh bitterly. "All 10 of you are retiring." Prior to this, the others had also withdrawn from the club. Subai spread his hands mainly because he did not want to be troubled. "Can you just stay and leave behind your name? You can do nothing. How about we give you 10 times the amount every year? The club needs you to support and recruit people." Tang Long tried to persuade him. Before, he could still ask him, but now he could only plead. The young man was no longer in his control. "I don't lack resources. If you want to save glory, how about I give you someone who can be selected as a disciple of Yulong Gymnasium? What do you think?" proposed Subai after thinking about it. Is that really okay?" Upon hearing this, Tang Long could not help but suck in a cold breath. Subai was too generous. Being a disciple of Yulong Gymnasium was highly sought after, but he had just given him one disciple so easily. Both Li Xing and Li Hai had their mouths hanging open in shock. The students of their school were all crossing the single plank bridge for a single disciple. With their strength, they had no chance at all. Meanwhile, this precious opportunity was easily given away by Subai, making the two speechless for a while. "Of course, it's not difficult for me." He shrugged. "Then thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting the club." Tang Long bowed quickly. "It's a small thing. Just take it as my reciprocation to the club." Subai shook his head. This director had been pretty good to him at the beginning, so he did not care about such trivial matters. "Then let's have a meal together, a simple meal with no outsiders, just a few of us," invited the director. "Okay, then." Subai thought for a while and nodded in agreement. As the director went to make arrangements, he got up and walked out. "We thought we would never have a chance to see you again." Along the way, Li Xing smilingly struck up a conversation with him. "Haha, we're all friends. Of course, we'll see each other every now and then." He shrugged casually. "But you're now Yulong Gymnasium's chief disciple. Your status is too high for us. You don't know what our school is willing to do for a place inside." Li Hai laughed bitterly. "Haha. In fact, it is also very normal inside the gym. Although there are more resources, there are more people, too." Subai laughed. "Talk is easy, but there's a chance to obtain a dragon pet inside. Even if it's an ordinary sub-dragon, it's still enviable." Li Xing could not help but sigh. "Do you want it? I can arrange for 1 or 2 people, but you must rely on yourself after you get in." He looked at the two. Their eyes lit up, but then they shook their heads again. "Forget it. We're not strong enough, and it's uncomfortable to squeeze in through the back door." "All right, but if you need help, you can always come and find me." Subai spread his hands and did not force the twin siblings. They were right. Entering Yulong Gymnasium was not necessarily a good thing for them. Geniuses were in abundance there, and the strength of the two could not even pass the test. At the dinner table, they ate and drank wine. By the way, how is Ruoxue? Asked instructor Yu Lingyu softly. She's doing very well now and is competing for the chief disciple position in Fuyao Gymnasium and Imperial Dragon Academy. We're ready to obtain our certificate during the new year and will hold our wedding when we have time. Subai smiled. Upon hearing this, the others could not help but show bitter smiles. You two really don't lose to the other. Sure enough, they were both hidden dragons, who had soared to the highest of the heavens as soon as they left the abyss. Lowly creatures like themselves could only look up at them enviably. Remember to ask us to be bridesmaids at that time. A charming smile appeared on Lehai's face. Haha, of course, he said with a smile. They chatted while drinking for 3 rounds. Recently, we're going to explore a high-level monster wilderness and looking for a kind of lava fruit which grows in the crater, but it's said to be surrounded by high-level monsters or even monarch Vulcan butterflies, so it's quite dangerous. Li Xing took a sip of beer and complained. Yeah, but we have no choice but to go. Lava fruit is very rare and is found only in the crater. I joined a temporary hunting team. I don't know if they're reliable. Lehai also sighed. As their level got higher and higher, their family could not afford to breed pets, so they needed to find them by themselves. Tang Long and Yu Lingyu nodded incessantly upon hearing this. Vulcan butterflies are too violent and are indeed dangerous. Once they have fixed targets, they'll hunt them down ceaselessly. I suggest changing the place. If you encounter a group of Vulcan butterflies, you'll be dead meat. I'm just afraid of the Vulcan butterflies, but it's said that there are many lava fruits near where they reside. Sigh. We're also very hesitant. Li Xing shrugged. Subai, what do you think? Lehai looked at him, who was drinking silently, and asked. He had been drinking silently without interrupting their conversation. Hearing Lehai asking him for his opinion, he thought for a while and asked, what grade of lava fruit do you want? A low-level monarch. I want to help one of my fire pets, Fire Snack, break through. Do you know where else we can go? Li Xing looked over. I don't know, but I happen to have those things with me. He shook his head and summoned 5 monarch lava fruits from his storage ring. I only have 5 low-level monarch fruits. I'll give all of them to you. He originally wanted to secretly give the fruits to the sisters at the end of the party, for he felt that it was not good to show such stuff in public. However, since they were already asking him, he might as well take them out now. These things were all used by him as rations for the dino, and he had hundreds of them in his hand, all of which were resources given by the gymnasium. Several people looked at the 5 fiery red fruits on the table and could not help but fall silent, not knowing what to say for a while. Was this how Subai was like now? He could take out 5 such precious materials at will. I'll buy them. It's not easy for you to get such fruits. Li Xing did not accept the lava fruits directly. The gym gave these to me. I didn't spend any money on them. I have a few hundred, so you can just take these. I'm very happy to be able to help my friends. Maybe I'll need your help in the future. He smiled and shook his head. Okay, then. If you need our help in the future, please feel free to come to us. Li Xing took the 5 fruits and nodded profusely. She felt like she was dreaming. She had just been worrying over this matter before obtaining the fruits in the next moment. It really felt like a dream. Only at this moment did they truly understand how terrifying these pinnacle gyms were, for them to be capable of giving monarch fruits by the hundreds. It seemed like 5 were low level, and the others were middle and high level ones. Subai could actually surpass the other disciples to become the chief disciple, proving that his strength was probably more terrifying than what they had seen in videos. After eating, Subai moved to head home. Come back to the club more often when you're free. They waved goodbye to him. Of course. Subai waved his hand and left while standing on Planet I. I'm afraid that it'll be difficult to see him in the future, Tang Long said with emotion. The others also nodded silently. While dining together, they realized that, although Subai actively tried to find a common topic, he was not particularly engaged in their conversation. He had produced a handful of treasures which they were so desperate to obtain. The secret realm they felt was extremely dangerous felt like a walk on the ground to Su-bai. Even if he still treated them as friends, it was difficult to find a common topic. After finishing the business here, Su-bai went to Blue Moon Cultivation House again. The door was closed tightly, and it was obvious that no one had been here for a year or two. Sighing, he turned and walked toward Carp Town. Can was a lot more dangerous now, with many space cracks here and there. The integration of the Blood Moon world increased the number of monsters in the wild areas, too. In particular, blood monsters were the most commonly seen creatures, but they dared not get too close to Su-bai and would retreat from a distance when they encountered him. How many blood subordinates can you feel? He asked. Raw tilde almost 1 in 10 is of my blood tilde, replied the little blood dragon after a while. That's not bad. The density is quite high. Su-bai nodded, ready to wait home to see his parents. He soon reached Carp Town. This time, he flew directly to Bayou Manor, with no intentions of walking on the ground. Bai, someone is hiding near the river southeast of your manor. Upon his arrival above Bayou Manor, the ethereal mechanical sound of Planet I suddenly rang. Someone's hiding here? Taken aback, he pondered for a few seconds before speaking. Hide and let's take a look. He wanted to see who it was. A good person would definitely not sneak around. The two people were dealing with the marks on the ground, and it seemed that they had just killed their opponents, for the pets they had with them sported quite a lot of injuries. What are you doing? Why are you showing up near my house? Su-bai and Planet I suddenly appeared in mid-air. F***CK. The two jumped up in fright and backed 3 steps. Their 2 monarch pets also rushed to the front. You are Su-bai? The 2 of them recognized him at a glance and quickly explained. We're not bad guys. Senior GAO and sent us to help secretly protect your parents. My master sent you. He scrutinized them. These are our IDs and certificates. You can call Senior GAO to verify this. Seeing that he did not believe them readily, the 2 hurriedly showed proof. Su-bai glanced at the certificates, which had the spiritual imprints left by his master, and could not find anything wrong. Thank you. His expression eased a little before he asked them. What are you doing? Are there many people plotting against my parents? No need to thank us. We are paid to do this. The 2 shook their heads and then smiled bitterly. It's true that there are many people plotting against your parents. Especially recently, the number of people has suddenly increased. Who are those people? Su-bai frowned and asked. He was not worried about the safety of his parents. After all, there was a 9-tailed magic fox in the manor. Now it should be a 12-tailed dream magic fox. Most people would never think that he had left this terrifying monster at home to protect his parents. After all, he himself did not have a sovereign monster. What he wanted to know was who was aiming at him and wanted to strike while he was away. Some of them are hired professional killers. We can't find the source, but Senior GAO might know. There are also some desperados with a large number of blood pets in their hands. They should be from the killer organization under the 12 Dragon Slayers. The 2 spoke slowly and revealed all that they knew, eager to get close to Su-bai. Do you know the stronghold of this organization? He asked further. If it were the 12 Dragon Slayers, it should be the revenge of Dragon King Amethyst. He wondered if anyone would come to assassinate him after the news of his return to Kan got out. He would actually be happy if there was. He appeared weak in Kan and was not sheltered from the gymnasium, but he had a hidden sovereign pet. I don't know, but we have a few doubts, replied the 2. A new bloodline monster has appeared in the wilderness of Carp Mountain, Chinese Redbud, and Phoenix Mountain respectively, added the 2. Thank you. I understand. Su-bai nodded, ready to take a look around tomorrow. After chatting with the 2 for a while, he wanted to invite them in for tea, but both insisted on patrolling the nearby area. In this way, he gave them 50,000 contribution points as a thank you and then turned to return home. Son, why are you back? Father Su stood up in surprise from planting a spiritual plant. Mother Su glanced behind him and then glared at him. Where's Ruoshue? Why didn't she accompany you? Did you quarrel with her? Su-bai. Was he not her son? You're already so big, can't you just give in to your girlfriend? If such a sensible girl like Ruoshua leaves you out of anger, I think no one else will want you. When Su-bai did not speak, his mother thought that she had hit the nail on the head and immediately lectured him with her arms akimbo. His father also glared at him. It was obvious that his parents had recognized Chen Ruoshua as their future daughter-in-law. No, I didn't quarrel with her. I came back to run errands and visit you along the way. We are getting along very well and are even ready to get a marriage certificate after the new year, he said helplessly. Really? Mother Su was in disbelief. Yes, you can call her if you don't believe me. He shrugged. Then I'll give her a call. His mother immediately took out her phone. Su-bai, Mom, have we lost even this basic trust between us? Mother Su ignored him and made a phone call. After obtaining an affirmative answer from Chen Ruoshua, the two adults smiled radiantly. Who knows if you're lying? You've been gone for a year and a half, it should logically be nothing good. His mother glanced at him. Have you eaten? Let's go back to cook food if you haven't. His father patted him on the shoulder. Su-bai was now taller than himself. I just ate. By the way, have you encountered anything lately? Su-bai walked over to help plant the spiritual plant as he inquired. Beside the spiritual field, he saw that the shadow-hunting dragon he had given to his father and the purple thunderbird of his mother had reached the high-level warlord and had been bred fairly well. Nothing happened, we've been well. Also, it seems that because of you, the Can Club, the Research Institute, and the school all bought the spiritual plants of our manor at high prices. Now, we don't have to worry about selling the things in the manor. Father Su grinned. I heard that you became Yulong Gymnasium's chief disciple. We also saw the video of you slaughtering monsters in Heavenly Abyss. Is everything true? Mother Su asked. Yes, it's all true. He nodded. Impressive. Father Su smiled. They both showed a trace of pride on their faces. At this time, after receiving his personal acknowledgement, they could not help but admire their son. Yulong Gymnasium was something they could not even imagine when they were young. At that time, their biggest dream had been to become professional pet tamers. However, their son had not only easily become a professional pet tamer but also obtained full marks in the college entrance examination. He had even gone to the legendary Heavenly Abyss University. Now, he had become the chief disciple of Yulong Gymnasium and had slaughtered an emperor monster, which could easily destroy a small city, as if he were killing a chicken. Whenever they thought of this, they could not help but pinch themselves to make sure that this was not a dream. In the blink of an eye, their son had become a star on the zenith of heavens and was respected everywhere he went. Even the mayor visited them personally. I'll still be your son even after I become successful. Su-bai smiled, happy that his parents were having a great time at home. By the way, where's my brother? Hasn't he come back often? He asked. He comes back less and less frequently, but he always mentions you. His mother laughed. Then I'll go and see him in a few days. He nodded. After that, he did not go anywhere and spent a long time planting spiritual plants with his parents. He chatted about some topics. He told them about his own situation and about his plans for the future. However, Su-bai did not tell them that, because of his reasons, there were often people trying to harm them. He did not want them to be frightened. Now that his parents were running the manor, they were obviously very happy and enjoying their time together. He did want some bad things to disturb their peace. Chapter 255 Data obtained, return to Kraken's nest. Suddenly, the fish float sank and he quickly lifted the rod. A golden carp was pulled ashore soon. Su-bai glanced at it and then threw the carp back. The reservoir had never released koi carps, and it all depended on luck to catch them. What's the point? An indifferent voice sounded by his ears. A fox had appeared beside him without him noticing it. It was naturally the 12-tailed magic fox that had settled in the reservoir. Its blood color had faded and turned back to snowy white, but the fox's pair of blood pupils still could not disappear. Of course, you don't understand. Su-bai nodded. You have caused a lot of enemies outside. Recently, a lot of people are looking for your parents for trouble, 12-tailed magic fox said indifferently. That's why I left you here, he said with a smile. I never promised to protect your parents, and you haven't formed a contract with me yet, nor are you qualified to order me around. The 12-tailed magic fox glanced coldly at him. Here. These are for you. He took out 10 bottles of potion and 500 fantasy fruits. Sorry, I take back what I said just now. I'm here to ensure the safety of your parents. The fox's eyes lit up and it lifted its claws to put the things away. It desperately needed these materials so that its strength could be almost completely restored. Aren't you afraid that I'll take the things and leave? The fox walked back gracefully and asked. No, because you can't bear to leave the divine skill on my body, he said with a smile. 12-tailed magic fox was dedicated to pursuing its peak. Its original limit was the high-level emperor grade, but it had broken through the sovereign grade via special means and had consumed its last point of potential. If it wanted to advance further, it could only rely on his blood moon divine skill. Carrot with a cold snort, the fox disappeared to the shore while sashaying. It hated the feeling of being held in someone's palm. However, there was no other way to defy this human being. He fished for 2 hours and then returned to Azure Dragon Mound. The villa remained the same, and the surrounding spiritual plants were also lush and verdant. Most of them had hanging spiritual fruits, which made him feel happy. In the past, the cub had taken out a small shovel and planted half of the hillside with flowers and spiritual plants, which were growing very vigorously at this point. Some had passed the flowering period, while some were still blooming. Some of the alien orchids, which bloomed forever, swayed with the wind, bringing a faint fragrance in the air. Seeing this, Subai remembered the cub's cute and funny look as a child. He could not help but reveal a smile like that of a nanny's. However, the bloodthirsty spear, which Subai used to cultivate spiritual plants, had disappeared. Because that thing would spread everywhere without management, it had been burned by his father. However, Subai was not bothered because he did not need the bloodthirsty spear anymore. After returning to the villa, he lay in bed and received a message from Qin Miao. I obtained the data of the armory that you wanted. It cost me 50 million contribution points. You can download it by yourself. She sent a link to a website. Subai, Dean, what's your Pet Tamer number? I'll transfer the amount to you. Qin Miao, it's okay. It's only 50 million contribution points. It's a mere trifle for me. She attached a screenshot. Subai counted 11 digits. There were a total of more than 10 billion contribution points. Thank you, Dean. It was really inhumane. No problem, as long as you run for the curator position well. I'll definitely work hard, he replied. Qin Miao, by the way, the data is 5 or 6 generations behind the current weapons. You should pay attention to that fact yourself. Subai, I understand. He put his phone away and glanced at the basketball-sized planet Eye, which was floating indoors. I have the data now. This is the URL. You can download and extract it quickly, he said. Master, rest assured. With these data, my combat power will be greatly increased. As for this data, it doesn't matter that it's lagging behind. I can use my computing power to perform calculation transformations, 1314 responded. In the days when it came back, Planet I had been working hard to collect all the valuable information on the internet. It quickly went to the website and started downloading the data. In the blink of an eye, it was early the next morning. Subai got up from his bed and took a look at the floating planet Eye as he asked, has the download been completed? No, the data is vast. 60% of it has been downloaded, for about 16,000 gigabytes. The download is expected to be completed at noon. Planet Eye explained that, even though its download speed was very fast, the data was too large to be completed at once. I see, then continue downloading everything. I'll head out in the meantime. Nodding, Subai left his electromagnetic pet at home and went out with the little blood dragon. After having breakfast at his parents' place, he turned and walked toward the reservoir. Where are you going? Asked Father Su. To the reservoir. There's a space inside, said Subai. Is that the space we saw in the past? Asked Mother Su curiously. Do you want to go in and see? I'll take you there. He looked at his parents and suggested with a smile. Okay, take us over for a look. We've never been there. His father was also curious. After they cleaned up the dining table, Subai took them to the reservoir. Little Blood Dragon wrapped the three of them in a scarlet light and dove directly into the bottom of the reservoir. They passed through the space crack and came to the world where the giant krakens lived. This. Mother Sue gawked at the scene before her and was speechless for a moment. This is the legendary giant kraken's nest. The entrance is actually in our house. Father Sue also inevitably took a deep breath, feeling quite dumbfounded. In the distance, they saw a number of giant krakens wandering aimlessly in the sky and ocean. Each was at least a few kilometers long. When these giant krakens saw strangers coming in, they all swam over, looking at the three of them warily as if they were ready to eat them at any time. These aren't considered big. Look at the starry omnivore kraken I cultivated. Subai laughed and opened his contract book. Pee-pee kraken, come out. A streamer flashed, and in the next moment, the sky darkened. This. Both his parents stared at the behemoth in the sky, shocked and speechless. The giant krakens, which were still staring warily at them in the distance, suddenly loosened their guard and all prostrated before the creature. Onum. The starry omnivore kraken glanced at the members of its species with disdain. They actually dared to be disrespectful in front of its master. It would have gobbled them up if they were not from the same clan. Although its aura was not strong, it had the king kraken blood coursing through its veins and the special pressure of a starry omnivore kraken, so even these emperor krakens could not resist it. How is it? Isn't it big? Subai looked at his parents and beamed. How in the world did you nurture this? Father Sue stared at this guy, which was directly blocking the sun, and was speechless for a long time. This behemoth only existed in legends. This was the first time the two adults had seen its real existence, so they were shocked and speechless for a while. Think about it, people were scared even if they stood in front of an elephant. What more of this behemoth 20 kilometers long?